The innocent campus Belle braved the rainstorm to rush to my door, just to spend the night with me, and I turned her down. The next day, she was found dead in the alley by my house. After that, I was consumed by guilt. I got into police academy and obsessively hunted for the real killer. But the rainstorm washed away all evidence. A full 10 years and I found nothing. Then, a sudden bolt of lightning sent me back to this fork in the road of fate. Goo, I heard your parents are away on business. So you're home alone. Could I stay at your place for a few days? I can do housework to pay you back. I looked at the person before me, instinctively reached out to touch her. Bai Wei flinched on instinct, but forced herself to hold still because she needed help. Frozen in place, the tips of my fingers touched her icy skin. Her slight tremble told me clearly, she's alive. I really came back. Sorry. Bai Wei stumbled back in panic. Her foot slipped, and she fell backward. I caught her waist quick as a flash, and pulled her into my arms. Amid the roaring rain, we were both dead silent. She stiffened in my embrace, too afraid to move. I let go immediately, stepped back into the edge of the light. You just look so cold. I instinctively wanted to give you some warmth. Sorry. It's okay. I stepped aside and let her in, seeing her pale, bloodless face. My thoughts churned. In my past life, after committing that crime in Shanghai City, the perpetrator vanished without a trace. This time, I won't just save her. I'll use years of criminal investigation experience and go to the crime scene tonight to catch the real killer. Bai Wei stood nervously in the entryway, fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. When she saw me turn to get slippers, she grew even more flustered. My socks are wet. I'll dirty the slippers. I'll just go barefoot. I'll mop the floor for you later. A man and a woman alone together on a rainy night, soaked through and through. She was deeply uneasy. She dug her nails into her palm, forcing herself to stay calm. While my back was turned, she quickly scanned the room from the corner of her eye. Only when she saw the hot tea and messy cardboard boxes on the coffee table did her tense shoulders relax a little. Here's a towel for your hair. Feel free to use it if you don't mind. Can I also borrow a shirt? My clothes are a bit wet. I just noticed. She was gripping her soaked blouse tightly. Since you need to change anyway, why not take a hot bath? Otherwise you'll catch a cold. The guest room doesn't have a tub. Use the bathroom in my room. I'll run the hot water. Hearing she'd have to bathe in my bathroom, Bai Wei blushed and lowered her head, murmured a barely audible okay. The sound of running water filled the bathroom. Watching my busy back, Bai Wei finally found the courage. Goo. Just call me by my name. You want to ask me why I didn't ask why you needed a place to stay? Bai Wei looked up, startled. Her eyes full of curiosity, she nodded. A pretty girl like you, knocking on a door in a downpour begging for shelter. You must have no other choice. If you're not comfortable telling me, then pushing would just be rude. Hearing this, Bai Wei's eyes reddened. I checked the water temperature, got up and slowly walked over to her. Suddenly raised my hand and braced it against the wall beside her ear, caging her in my arms. I'm not worried you have some ulterior motive. But aren't you afraid that staying here? I might try something with you? Bai Wei leaned against the wall, biting her lip lightly, feeling a warm flush spread through her body. I trust you. Her beautiful eyes met mine boldly. That answer shut down any room I had to keep testing her, remembering I still had something important to do tonight. I smiled and pulled my hand back. Go take your bath. For a change of clothes. With your figure, this shirt can double as a dress. Just a temporary fix. Put your clothes in the washer, then the dryer afterward. They'll be dry in no time. Thank you. Bai Wei turned and went into the bathroom. That thank you, half for taking her in, half for my understanding and consideration. Listening to the water running in the bathroom, I smiled and left the bedroom to make ginger tea. A little while later, the bathroom door opened. Bai Wei came out wearing my oversized hoodie. Her cheeks flushed pink from the steam. The pale skin above her knees showed. I've already put your slippers out. Bai Wei slipped into the warm, fuzzy slippers. Her embarrassment eased quite a bit. As soon as she stepped out of the bedroom, she caught the sweet, warm scent of honey ginger soup. I approached with a mug. My eyes brushed over the wide neckline of her hoodie. My Adam's apple bobbed. Here, have some ginger tea. Bai Wei took the mug, sipped it slowly. Should I cook you some noodles? Would that be too much trouble? Trouble? It'll just take a few minutes. Have a seat. I'll add 2 eggs for you. I was about to get up when a small hand caught mine. I know how to fry eggs. Let me help too. In the kitchen, my swift knife skills surprised Bai Wei. On the cutting board, neatly chopped tomatoes and ham appeared quickly. Bai Wei stepped onto a small stool, tiptoed to reach the egg carton on the top shelf. As she moved, the hem of the oversized hoodie rode up. I glanced sideways, and my face instantly turned bright red. Bai Wei seemed to notice my look, and frantically tugged at the hem, but lost her balance on the little stool. I quickly reached out from behind to steady her, but my palm accidentally slid where it shouldn't have. Her body went limp, and she fell right into my arms. The sandalwood scent from her hair mingled suddenly with the citrus of the body wash. We both froze, until boiling soup splashed out of the pot. Breaking the spell, I quickly pulled my hands back, took a half step away, shoved the ladle into her hand. You stir, I'll get the eggs. As I turned around for the eggs, I caught sight of my own red ears in the mirror. So all these years, it wasn't that I felt nothing for girls, but that there was no one else who could make my heart race like this. Bai Wei blushed and stirred the noodles with her head down. The sizzle of hot oil perfectly masked the thunder of our heartbeats. The aroma of tomato noodle soup soon filled the kitchen. I set the noodles on the table, deliberately avoided her trembling fingers. Careful, it's hot. Pick whatever channel you want to watch. The moment the TV lit up, Bai Wei suddenly gripped her chopsticks tight. On the screen was playing some educational material I forgot to switch off. The images were extremely graphic. I gave an awkward cough and quickly switched to the on-demand menu. Randomly clicked on Crayon Shinchan. I almost forgot. Back then, it was because I was afraid of getting caught watching this that I refused to let the campus Belle in. Luckily, after all these years of settling, my skin is a lot thicker now. No flush, no racing heart. Acting as if nothing happened, he quickly cut it off. Bai Wei also quickly changed the subject. So you're this good at cooking. I'll grab a tissue. Gently wiped away the tiny beads of sweat on the tip of his nose. Once you sweat, the chill is driven out. Eat slowly, there's more in the pot. He focused on eating the noodles. He finished all the noodles and soup, leaving nothing. Looking completely satisfied. Are you full after just one bowl? The moment he finished speaking, a sudden crash of thunder exploded outside the window. I instinctively looked at the clock. 9:57. Only about half an hour left until the time of the murder in my past life. In this life, I have to see the killer's true face. Time is tight. I decided to head to the crime scene area immediately to investigate. I brought a glass of water and a blanket, draping it over him. Since you're full, watch TV in the living room first. Let your food settle. I'll wash the dishes when I get back. I'm going out to buy some late-night snacks. I'll be right back. Going out in such heavy rain? It's fine. It's very close. When I reached the door, I suddenly stopped and turned around. I worried the perpetrator might be a premeditated criminal, maybe even already lurking nearby, having followed him. Remember, before I come back, don't open the door no matter who rings the bell. I have the key. I won't ring the bell. Hearing my instructions, Bai Wei nodded obediently like a kitten, wrapping herself tightly in the blanket. As the door closed, she looked at the empty room, curled up on the sofa, quietly waiting for my return. I opened the black umbrella and stepped into the rain. Glanced at my waterproof watch. The time was 21:58. In my past life, the forensic examiner concluded, Bai Wei's time of death was around 10:30. My target tonight was the 24-hour convenience store. On the road he had to take in his past life. In his past life, Bai Wei borrowed an umbrella at the convenience store, ate something, then walked toward the alley where the crime occurred. Although he stayed at my place tonight, I had to confirm whether the timeline would undergo a substitution correction, letting someone else die in Bai Wei's place at that spot. I absolutely cannot allow that to happen. On the way, I took out my phone to check the home surveillance. On the screen, Bai Wei was curled up on the sofa, hugging her knees, watching TV. Confirmed he was obediently staying home, not running around. I quickened my pace. Just as I neared the convenience store, I heard a muffled groan. By the garbage bin at the alley entrance, a slender figure was curled up. A few thugs were surrounding him, kicking and punching, arrogantly demanding what he was hiding in his hand. The person pinned to the ground was clutching a light gray handkerchief tightly, with a tin box lying beside him. I recognized him at a glance. Yeezy, a classmate in my class who was withdrawn and often bullied. Hearing my voice, the thugs whirled around, their faces instantly turning pale. Since my parents had some influence in Shanghai City, those thugs were usually very wary of me. Before I even lowered my umbrella, they scattered in panic as if they'd seen a ghost. Only the sound of rain hitting the tin roof remained in the alley. I crouched down, holding the umbrella steadily over Yeezy's head. Are you okay? Want me to take you to the hospital to get checked? He still had old scars from a burn 3 months ago on his wrist. I reached out to help him up, but he snatched his hand back as if shocked by electricity. The tin box hit the wall, and a few crayons and half a bag of cat food rolled into the muddy water. Thanks, he said, bending down to pick up his bag. His soaked bangs covered the tear mole at the corner of his eye. I noticed there were dark brown stains under his left fingernails, like dried blood. In such a heavy downpour. You still came out to feed the stray cats? Yi Si mumbled a vague reply, then suddenly started coughing violently, his thin shoulders trembling in the rain. I took off my jacket and tossed it to him to put on. Isn't your mom away on another business trip? If you get sick, who's going to take care of your little brother? Just then, a surveillance footage from my past life suddenly flashed through my mind. In my past life, Bai Wei seemed to have seen something outside the convenience store, which led her to walk toward the alley. Seeing Yi Si now, it suddenly clicked. Bai Wei must have seen Yi Si being bullied. Details from my past life flashed rapidly through my mind. If in my past life, Bai Wei left the convenience store to stop this bullying, her soaked appearance likely made those thugs bullying turn into harassment. I tried to recall Yi Si's expression that Monday in my past life. His injuries then were much worse than now, yet he didn't react much to Bai Wei's death. This meant, in my past life, he probably held off the thugs with all his might. So Bai Wei wasn't taken away by them. Since it wasn't them, the real killer is someone else. After reasoning it out, I immediately zeroed in on a key piece of information, the murder weapon. On a stormy night like this, whoever carried that lethal knife out with them is the prime suspect. Thinking those 3 thugs might very well have a knife on them, I immediately regretted letting them go earlier. As for Yi Si, covered in wounds, in my past life, he managed to survive until graduation. So for now I had to set him aside. If you're okay, go home quickly. I lifted my foot to leave, then stopped and looked back at Yi Si. Your umbrella is broken. I shoved the black umbrella into his hand. Your umbrella is broken. Take mine. I have things to do. I can't walk you. Take care. Get home quickly. Without waiting for Yi Si to refuse, I plunged into the rainstorm, running until I disappeared from sight. Because the rain was so heavy, those 3 thugs hadn't gotten far They were taking shelter under a eave. They were cursing and discussing whether to put a sack over my head, but were intimidated by my family background. They didn't dare act rashly. Just as they were hesitating, I charged toward them at lightning speed. The 3 thugs were startled, thinking I had come to demand money, and kept backing away, waving their hands. Hey, 3 friends. Lend me something. The 3 looked at each other, eyes full of wariness. Not borrowing money, something else. The 3 stared at me in confusion. I looked at them, and flashed a harmless smile. Knives. The 3 thugs stood frozen in place. They clearly hadn't understood my request. Hey, you 3, you're in the gang life. You wouldn't be out without a knife, would you? The taunt worked. Green Hair pulled out a butterfly knife from his pocket, showing off. Playing with it in front of me, I only glanced at it, and judged it definitely wasn't the fruit knife with a clean cut. From the forensic report, that one's too flashy. I'll offer $100 to buy something like a fruit knife. With a reward like that, the other 2 thugs scrambled to show theirs. A multifunction Swiss Army knife, and a coldly gleaming military folding hunting knife. Neither was the murder weapon I was looking for. Nice knives. But unfortunately, I only brought $100. Oh well, I ignored the thugs' suspicion. Being played, they cursed and grumbled. I turned around and plunged back into the cold rain. None of these 3 thugs had the murder weapon I was looking for. This lead was completely dead. A fierce anxiety burns in my chest. Actually, the simplest way to crack the case would be to reject Bai Wei, just like in the past life, and secretly tail her. Then I'd catch the real killer red-handed at the crime scene. But now that I've come back, the moment I see him safe and sound, I can't suppress the pounding in my heart. I'd rather search for a needle in a haystack than risk his life, even a tiny bit. I go back to the convenience store to buy an umbrella. The kind clerk hands me a clean towel to dry off the rain from my head. I thank him, wipe myself dry, and put my phone into a waterproof pouch. Then, I mimic Bai Wei's movements and steps from the past life, open my umbrella, and step back into the raging storm. The moment I enter the curtain of rain, the fierce wind nearly snaps the umbrella ribs. I tread through mud and broken glass, finally reaching the start of the camera blind spot. This is the place repeatedly mentioned in the past life's trace evidence report. The waterproof watch glows faintly, showing 22:17. A sudden gust of wind flips the umbrella inside out. I simply abandon the umbrella, letting the icy rain pound down on me. My phone vibrates inside the waterproof pouch. I lean against the damp brick wall and open the home surveillance. In the warm yellow glow, Bai Wei is curled up on the corner of the sofa, rubbing her feet together uneasily, her gaze repeatedly darting to the door. There's anticipation in her expression, mixed with a hint of worry. Just wait a little longer. Don't be anxious. The time reaches 22:29. Suddenly, a clatter of metal comes from the end of the alley. I immediately creep over, alert, but unexpectedly see a familiar face. The notorious school bully of Shanghai No. 2 High School, Jiang Yan. He's sitting under the awning of an illegal structure, peeling an apple with a fruit knife. Well, if it isn't old goo. What are you doing out here in the middle of the night? With the storm this heavy, and not even an umbrella? Just out on an errand. The wind broke my umbrella. What about you? What are you doing out here? Jiang Yan uses the tip of the knife to lift a wrinkled apple from a plastic bag. I know that his reputation as a school bully is just a facade. His family is poor, and his mother suffers from severe uremia. Brought my mom some fruit, but got chased out. On the edge of his rain boots are traces of the anti-slip plaster commonly used in hospital corridors. His clothes reek of the disinfectant unique to the ICU. But my eyes are fixed on the fruit knife in his hand. The characteristics of this knife match the description of the murder weapon in Bai Wei's case exactly. Why are you standing in the rain? Get over here. My place is right next door. I'll lend you an umbrella. As soon as I step under the awning, Jiang Yan's phone rings urgently. On the other end, a nurse shouts anxiously that his mother's blood oxygen is plummeting. Jiang Yan's face instantly changes. The fruit knife plops into the puddle. Without even saying goodbye, he spins around and dashes frantically into the rainstorm. I bend down and pick up the knife from the muddy water. An icy coldness seeps through my fingers. After careful examination, I am completely certain, appearing at this location at this time, with the exact size and shape, this is the key murder weapon from Bai Wei's death in the past life. If Jiang Yan discarded the weapon by accident, then the real killer might very well pass by and pick it up within the next half hour. I take a deep breath, throw the knife back to its original spot, and, relying on years of criminal investigation experience, retreat into the shadows. Lying low, the rain pours down. 22:35, a homeless man, reeking of alcohol and stumbling, lurches into the shelter. He kicks over a soda can, his muddy cloth shoes stomp hard on the knife handle, driving the blade deep into the mud. Then he shuffles away, carrying a half-empty bottle. 22:47, a delivery rider brakes to dodge the rain, accidentally steps on the knife, and falls. He gets up cursing, kicks the blade into the gap of a drain, and mud instantly covers the entire knife. The time reaches 22:55. The knife, buried under the mud, is now extremely hard to stumble upon by chance. There are only a few minutes left before the estimated time of Bai Wei's death in the past life. Suddenly, a figure in a black raincoat and mask flashes past the end of the alley. He hunches his back, walks straight toward the mud-covered knife, and crouches down. Every muscle in my body instantly tenses like a bowstring, just as his hand reaches for the handle. On the wrist exposed by his sleeve, there's a conspicuous scar from a sulfuric acid burn. I suddenly step out of the shadows, and in the dim light, I clearly see the face under the raincoat. It's the well-known Mr. Nice Guy of Shanghai number 2 high school, the chemistry teacher, Li Mingyuan. Shock surges through my heart. 3 months ago, he shielded some rowdy students in the lab and got burned by sulfuric acid himself. Afterward, he even gently comforted the student who caused it. He's also famously henpecked, with not a single bad word said about him in the whole neighborhood. But if he's the killer, then all the doubts from the past life make sense. In the past life, Bai Wei was attacked in this dark alley, yet there were no signs of her trying to escape. That was precisely because she also absolutely trusted this gentle, good-natured man. If Li Mingyuan offered to shield her from the rain with his raincoat and take her home to his wife for care, in that desperate, pouring rain late at night, Bai Wei wouldn't have had the slightest suspicion. Thinking of this, I feel an overwhelming ache, but I can't act rashly. After all, Li Mingyuan hasn't committed the crime yet. I decide to use my investigative skills to test his reason for being out so late. Teacher Li Mingyuan looks up immediately, seeing me soaked through. His face is full of surprise and concern. Ah, Gu Nancheng. How did you get so drenched? I was out on an errand and got trapped by the rain. Teacher Li, what brings you out in such heavy rain? I stare at his expression intently, sharply catching a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. Nothing much, just came out to buy a pack of cigarettes. He's lying. Li Mingyuan doesn't smoke at all. He's known as the model family man. My raincoat is roomy. Come under it and take shelter. I'll take you back to my place and lend you the raincoat to wear home. He still wears that kind, approachable expression. I nod numbly and duck under his raincoat. In the cramped space, I notice his gaze instinctively flick to the nearby adult vending machine, then quickly withdraw. He puts his arm around my shoulder as we walk. The whole way, I feel like a walking corpse, hollow and numb. When we reach his doorstep, Li Mingyuan suddenly pulls out his phone, sends a message, and quickly puts it away. I forgot my keys. Wait a moment, but I clearly felt a keychain at his waist. That's his second lie tonight. My suspicions grow. After a short while, the door finally opens. It's Li Mingyuan's wife, Shin, also a chemistry teacher at the same school. She's wearing a silk robe, the belt loosely tied, her cheeks flushed. Warm light spills from the entrance. I glimpse a tipped-over wine bottle on the living room coffee table, a lit scented candle, and scattered rose petals. The air is thick with lingering traces of intimacy. In this instant, my mind suddenly clears. All the clues instantly connect into a clear trail. Teacher Li had planned to be romantic with his wife tonight, but found they were out of contraceptives. So he braved the rain to buy some. Out of habit as a good-natured person, he took the opportunity to clear the clogged drain and accidentally picked up that fruit knife. Because he ran into me, he was too embarrassed to go buy the supplies, and also didn't feel right leaving me alone. So he brought me back, and earlier, pretending he forgot his keys to send a message, was just to give his wife, who was wearing lingerie, time to change clothes. All his strange behavior now has a reasonable explanation. How did you get so soaked? Sorry about that. Here, take this towel and dry off. Thank you, teacher's wife. I take the towel and wipe my hair, but my doubts turn into even greater confusion. If he's still that good-natured person, if his wife is eagerly waiting for him to come home for some warmth, would a man like that really see a female student and have improper thoughts, kill her and dump the body? Shin notices Li Mingyu, still holding a dirty knife, curiously asks where he found the knife. Why is it so dirty? Found it at the drain. It was blocking a lot of trash. Just ran into Gu Nancheng and forgot to throw it away. Li Mingyu moves to throw the knife into the trash can, but I suddenly sense something wrong. Wait, teacher Li. Let me take a look at that knife. Li Mingyu looks puzzled but turns the knife around, with the tip pointing inward, the handle outward, and hands it to me. This instinctive defensive move confirms his inherent gentleness. I take the fruit knife and examine it closely. My expression instantly changes. The light was too dim earlier, I couldn't see clearly. But this knife's blade has slight curling at the edge. This is clearly caused by Jiang Yin cutting something hard with it. The forensic report had no mention of the blade being curled. The incision would have obvious differences. This means the real murder weapon is not this knife at all. I've been targeting the wrong person entirely. I quickly turn my wrist and glance at my watch. It's already 11 p.m. The real killer might have just appeared at this time. My heart tightens with urgency. I quickly stuff the towel back to Shin. Sorry, teacher Li, it's too late. I need to get home right away. I'll borrow your raincoat for now. I shove the knife handle back into Li Mingyu's hand, put on the raincoat, and plunge into the rainstorm. I sprint all the way back to the crime scene. I search back and forth several times in the area. Occasionally a passerby hurries by, but none look like a killer who would stop in the middle of the road to commit a crime. 11:30 p.m. The streets are empty. I take out my phone to check the surveillance feed. Bai Wei is curled up on the sofa, nodding off like a sleepy chick, but still fighting sleep, looking toward the door from time to time, waiting for me to come home. I clench my fist and simply take off my raincoat, continuing to pace near the dark crime scene. Until after midnight, I still haven't seen a single suspicious figure. My heart is overtaken by a deep sense of helplessness and cold. Did I really miss it? Until after midnight, I still haven't seen a single suspicious figure. My heart is overtaken by a deep sense of helplessness and cold. Did I really miss it? If I can't find the killer, how can I clear Bai Wei's past life's injustice? I raise my head, letting the rainstorm lash my face, my gaze growing more determined. Suddenly my phone vibrates. I immediately open the surveillance feed. In the frame, Bai Wei, though drowsy, is still suppressing her fear of loneliness. Walks to the door, pacing with a worried expression. Hey, the sudden voice startles her. She quickly looks toward the surveillance camera. Goo, I got held up with something. I'll be back soon. If you're sleepy, go to sleep first. As long as you're okay. I'm not sleepy yet. I'll wait for you to come back. She forces a gentle smile at the camera. I promise I'll be back right away. She drags her tired body and curls back into the blanket, her expression finally much more at ease. Looking at the empty street, I stand in the rainstorm, letting the cold water pour over me. This is my habit over the years. Cold water quickly activates my brain. I start frantically retracing everything I encountered tonight. The convenience store clerk, ECI, the 3 thugs. I forcibly put everyone on my suspect list. ECI, when he was robbed by the thugs. His backpack was turned upside down, and they couldn't find a single cent on him, let alone a weapon. Eliminate the 3 thugs. They had motive, but the knife type they had didn't match at all. Eliminate the knife handled by the vagrant and the delivery driver. Not the real murder weapon either. After eliminating all impossibilities, my memory rewinds, and I lock onto someone I originally thought was absolutely impossible. Jiang Yan, because his mother was critically ill, he ran toward the hospital and dropped the knife at the scene. But if his mother's condition quickly stabilized, half an hour was enough for him to run back and forth from the hospital. If on his way back, because he found the knife was lost, he went to a nearby store and bought a new fruit knife, the case files indeed record that between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m. that night, someone bought a fruit knife in the rain, and the time he returned, perfectly avoided the period when teacher Li and I went to his house. Following this line of reasoning, Jiang Yan's suspicion instantly balloons infinitely. To verify this hypothesis is simple. Go knock on Jiang Yan's door right now. If he's already home, and indeed bought a new knife, then his suspicion is completely confirmed. Following my memory, I arrive near his house. My heart sinks. The lights in his house are actually on. I take a deep breath and knock on the door. The door opens. Jiang Yan is shirtless, with a towel on his head. Old goo, what the hell? So late and you're not home yet? Where did you get that raincoat? I step inside the house, my eyes instantly locking onto the table. A brand new fruit knife. The mysterious person in the case files who bought a knife in the rain late at night. It really is him. Teacher Li lent it to me. Did you just get back? Yeah, there was some trouble with my mom earlier. I was in such a hurry I forgot to lend you an umbrella. What are you doing out so late? Nothing. I like walking in the rain. You were in a hurry earlier. You dropped your knife on the ground. Why did you buy a new one? Damn, I was wondering why I couldn't find it in my pocket. Where did it fall? Teacher Li picked it up and threw it in the trash. Ah, forget it. That knife was used to cut wood. It was a little curled. I just bought a new one on the way. He smiles casually, but my heart is full of gloom. His time of returning home exactly matches the time of the crime, and he really did buy the same type of murder weapon. Suspicion cannot be ruled out at all. I weigh my words, deciding to test him directly. Jiang Yan, we're friends, right? How can you say that? We're all good brothers. Are you in some kind of trouble? Just tell your buddy. Watching him act so chivalrously, I looked straight into his eyes. I don't want to see you end up behind bars someday. Think twice before you act. Your aunt can't manage without you. Don't do anything illegal. Jiang Yan was stunned. He completely misunderstood me. Thought I'd found out about his plan to sell fake cigarettes at school. Not only did he not get angry, he was deeply moved that I came in the rain to talk him out of it. Don't worry, no one else knows my style. Don't you know me yet? I won't do it. Seeing my goal achieved, I got up to leave. I had no idea that this accidental scolding would make him give up the fake cigarette scheme for good. As I turned and walked into the curtain of rain, he thumped his chest like a teenage hero behind me, swearing to himself that I would be his brother for life. With mixed feelings, I said goodbye. Jiang Yan took Teacher Li's raincoat and knocked on the door in front of his house. He set the raincoat down. Inside, faint sounds drifted out, the kind that makes your face burn. So I didn't disturb them. Walking home through the downpour, my mood gradually lightened. If Jiang Yan really was the killer, at least right now, he was still at a stage where he could be guided, and his evil thoughts eliminated. I'd run into so many people tonight, but none seemed more suspicious than him. It was past midnight when I got home. With the sound of the door, Bai Wei, who had been half asleep under the blanket, suddenly snapped her eyes open. Seeing me back, a happy smile immediately spread across her face. She trotted over quickly, but as she got close, she saw I was soaked like a drowned rat. You went to buy a midnight snack. How'd you end up this wet? The wind and rain were too strong. My umbrella broke. The snack blew away too. You don't get any. Go take a hot bath right now. You'll catch a cold otherwise. Seeing the concern on her face, I smiled. The guest room bed is just a hardboard, nothing set up. You want to just sleep on the couch tonight? Or you could squeeze in with me. I'll take the couch. Just kidding. You take the bed, I'll sleep on the couch. Let me take a bath first. I didn't want to get the freshly mopped floor all wet, so I just stripped off my soaking clothes. Right there in the living room, hearing the rustle of fabric, Bai Wei instinctively looked up. The taut lines of muscle made her heart pound like a drum. Her face felt hot as fire. Her throat clogged with cotton. She couldn't speak. I'm going to take a bath now. I'll call you to go to bed when I'm done. I didn't notice her discomfort. I grabbed my wet clothes and walked into the bathroom. Bai Wei nodded mechanically. Only when the sound of splashing water came from the bathroom did she collapse onto the couch like a puppet with cut strings, pressing the back of her hand against her burning cheek. I don't know how long passed. I came out wrapped in a towel. I meant to call her to bed, but I saw her curled up on the couch hugging a blanket like a little kitten, fast asleep, breathing softly and peacefully. I walked over slowly. Kneeling down, I quietly studied her sleeping face. Watching her steady breathing, I still felt a surreal sense of being in a dream. When I reached out to brush the hair from her face, a drop of water from my still damp arm fell right onto her slightly parted lips. She licked it unconsciously, startling me so much I quickly pulled my hand back. A thunderclap outside the window. Bai Wei suddenly turned over, kicking off half the blanket. I instinctively reached out to catch it, but instead touched her warm ankle. I could clearly feel her steady breathing had become uneven. Her eyelashes fluttered violently. Her body temperature rose. She was awake, but didn't open her eyes. I didn't call her out. Instead, I scooped her up, blanket and all, and carried her steadily to the bedroom. The girl in my arms grew even more tense. I laid her gently on the bed, pulled the blanket out, and covered her with my own quilt. Then I bent down, leaned close to her ear, and said goodnight. My hot breath made her instinctively shrink her neck. I smiled, turned around, and walked out. As the door closed, Bai Wei opened her eyes in the darkness. In truth, during those short steps from the living room to the bedroom, her mind had gone completely blank. She had been nervous to the extreme, but never expected to receive a tender goodnight. She clutched the edge of the quilt with her small hands, lifted it to her nose, the faint fragrance of shower gel lingering on the blanket. For the first time in her life, she didn't curl up. Instead, she stretched out, wrapped herself tight in the quilt, and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, after a night of relentless rain, it finally eased up. Bai Wei, well-rested, got up early, changed into the clothes that had dried overnight. To keep her promise of doing housework as repayment, she conscientiously tidied up my bedroom spotlessly. But when she tiptoed out of the room, she froze in place. I had been so exhausted last night that I'd fallen asleep on the couch with just a towel around my waist and a blanket over me. Right now I was lying with my back to her, but the towel that should have been wrapped around me had somehow slipped completely off onto the floor. Bai Wei's little face instantly flushed bright red. To distract herself, she skillfully used ingredients from the fridge to make sandwiches and warm milk, but her mind couldn't help replaying that face-burning scene from just moments ago. Just as Bai Wei set breakfast on the table, I also woke up on the couch, half asleep, half awake. I instinctively reached for the nightstand to grab my gun, but only felt the cold glass of the coffee table. I propped myself up on my left hand and sat up. The old injury on my left shoulder from chasing down a fugitive in my past life didn't even twinge. I pressed my temples. Frowning, I lifted the towel. The skin beneath my gaze instantly clashed with my memory. The knife scars from fights were gone, replaced by a smooth, youthful body. I was fully awake now. I really had gone back 10 years. I jerked my head to look at the wide-open bedroom door. My heart skipped a beat. Only when I saw her busy back in the kitchen did I collapse heavily back onto the couch, letting out a long breath of relief. Thank God, it wasn't a dream. She really survived that rainstorm night. In my past life as a police detective, I had been weighed down by endless guilt and exhaustion, never once enjoying a single day of youth. Now she was still here, and my youth had returned too. This time, I decided to live well. Nancheng, time to get up and eat. I've made breakfast. Hope it's to your taste. Bai Wei peeked out from the dining area and called out softly. I sat up. Following the smell, I sniffed. A tempting aroma of wheat and milk drifted through the air, coming right up. I walked over to the table. Bai Wei was sitting there quietly, waiting for me. I thought, you don't have to wait. Go ahead and eat first. It's fine. I'll wait and do the dishes together anyway. Try it. See if you like it. Tell me what to improve. I'll make it that way next time. With skills like this, you could open a shop on the back street of school. I'd be the cashier. You'd be the chef. I used to manage fine on my own. But living with you, I'm afraid I'll turn into a lazy pig. Haha. Bai Wei rested her chin on her hands. Haha. Bai Wei cupped her cheeks in both hands. Her smile grew brighter. I bit into the sandwich. Warm fried egg and cheese slid across my tongue. It tasted surprisingly good. I pulled out a tissue, casually wiped the oil stain off the tip of her nose. Bai Wei's earlobes instantly turned red. She shyly lowered her head and stirred the milk in her cup. After breakfast, I was about to clear the dishes when my hand happened to brush against hers as she reached out. Her hand was soft yet ice cold. Bai Wei insisted on doing all the housework. With swift, precise movements, she cleaned the kitchen until it was spotless. Just as she came out of the kitchen, she looked around again, ready to keep working. I grabbed her small hand firmly and forced her to sit down on the couch. You don't look like you're in great spirits. No working for the next couple of days. I'm the one in charge here. You have to follow my orders and rest properly. Otherwise, I'll have to kick you out. Bai Wei was intimidated by my words. She nodded obediently. Later, come out shopping with me. I'll buy you some new clothes. I'll go home and get a change of clothes. When she mentioned going home, her expression clearly showed reluctance and unease. No need, we'll buy new ones. If you didn't bring money, just put it on my tab first. Principal plus interest. You'll have to stay here and work as my maid until you've paid it all off. If you can't, I'm not letting you go. Bai Wei naturally caught the hint of reluctant parting in my words. A warm current passed through her heart. Finally, she showed a peaceful smile and agreed in a low voice. Where do you usually buy clothes? Just that secondhand clothing store at the corner behind the school. $50 can get you a whole outfit, but I do disinfect them carefully. Every time, I boil them with soap 3 times, and then let them sun-dry thoroughly. Her broken voice carried a hint of nervousness, afraid that I would look down on her for it. Suddenly, I remembered a place. The clothes there are pretty good. Suddenly taken by my hand, Bai Wei stumbled half a step, her forehead lightly bumping against my shoulder blade. She didn't pull away. She let me lead her, until we stopped at a glass storefront on the corner. The wooden door of the iPhone store was slightly ajar, the door chime lazily mingling with the gramophone, intertwining together. Bai Wei looked at the expensive fabrics displayed in the window and nervously tugged at my sleeve. This place looks really expensive. The owner is an old classmate of my mom's. She mainly serves students. It's not expensive. Don't worry, let's go in. I pushed the door open. The shop was filled with the scent of freshly ironed cotton. Sue-E behind the counter looked up, her eyes landing on our clasped hands. She smiled, crinkling the fine lines at the corners of her eyes. Oh, what a pretty girl. Nancheng, bringing your girlfriend to pick out clothes. Bai Wei's ears instantly turned crimson. Sensing her nervousness, I gently let go of her hand. Auntie Sue, help her pick out some seasonal clothes. Get a few sets of underwear too. Make sure it's pure cotton, Class A. Sue-E smiled and took Bai Wei's hand, leading her behind the curtain only covered from the neck down. Bai Wei kept feeling as if she were exposed to my view. Shyly, she squeezed deeper into the rack. I stepped back and sat down by the window, absently flipping through a sample book, but her soft voice behind the curtain clearly reached my ears. That lace one. Really, Auntie, no need. A woman has to please herself. Underwear is worn underneath. Just pick what you like. This set will definitely charm that rascal Nancheng, if you like it, and he likes seeing it too. It's killing two birds with one stone, right? Bai Wei wanted to explain their relationship, but the words stuck in her throat. In the end, she just blushed and agreed. After picking out the underwear, Sue-E grabbed a few more outfits and slipped behind the curtain. Listening to the rustle of fabric inside, a thin layer of sweat formed on the back of my neck. My mind couldn't stop imagining how she'd look in them. The curtain was yanked open with a swish. Does it look weird? Bai Wei twisted the hem of her skirt and turned halfway around. The morning light enveloped her like translucent honey-colored cotton. The skirt flared out in a graceful arc, like a first-bloom bellflower. My Adam's apple bobbed heavily. I suddenly stood up to smooth down her shirt collar. You buttoned the second one wrong. My fingertips accidentally brushed the skin on the side of her neck. I yanked my hand back as if shocked, and on instinct grabbed a straw sun hat, plopping it on her head to cover my fluster. Looks like you two are both happy with it. Try the set too. Curtain. The curtain lifted again. Semi-transparent bamboo linen fibers outlined a young girl's curves in the morning light. For a moment, I couldn't tear my eyes away. Sue-E had a sharp eye. One outfit after another fit perfectly. Seeing that she was getting carried away with the matching, I quickly stopped her. Okay, Auntie Sue, no more matching. My card can't take it anymore. What are you afraid of? Just ask your mom for reimbursement. Spending money on your future daughter-in-law. I bet she'd be thrilled. I thought you two had already sealed the deal. I gave a wry smile and begged her again to keep it secret. Auntie Sue teased me and gave me a friend's discount at 10%. At checkout, she wrapped the underwear separately, leaned close to my ear, and whispered, Your little girlfriend's figure. I've had a look for you. I coughed, choking, ears red. I handed over my credit card. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Bai Wei standing on tiptoe, looking at a lace nightgown by the window. In the morning light, she looked incredibly young and beautiful. In a daze, the ghastly photo of her tragic death in the rainstorm from my past life flashed through my mind again. I clenched my fists tightly and swore secretly in my heart, in this life, as long as I'm alive, I will absolutely protect this beauty before me with all my might. Clothes were taken care of. Only bed linens remained. I walked ahead carrying the shopping bags. Bai Wei's steps were a little slower, sneaking glances at me from the corner of her eye. The mint green lace edge of the skirt in the bag fluttered slightly in the breeze. The furniture store was on the 4th floor. Just pick whatever you like. After all, you'll be the one sleeping on it. At that moment, we were like a young couple out shopping, with a bit of nervousness and sweetness. We arrived at the bedding store. The warm yellow lighting made everything look incredibly soft. I pushed the shopping cart beside her, watching her bend down to browse. It felt like newlyweds furnishing their home. Isn't this too expensive? What's expensive? If you like it, try it first. I took down a silk duvet and stuffed it into her arms. She smiled and said nothing. When I crouched down in front of the shelf to compare fillings, she quietly put that 4-figure silk duvet back in its place and picked up a cheap, light green wash cotton one. This one feels nice. Nice how? It's so coarse. I realized she was put off by the price. I stood up and gave her forehead a gentle tap. Good bedding improves sleep quality. Besides, you won't be staying in the guest room from now on. And once we wash it, we can still use it for guests later. So buying the expensive one is fine. The double meaning of we, and not the guest room, made her catch a different implication. She was a little stunned. Come over and try the support on this mattress. Before she could react, I pulled her down into the fluffy silk duvet and casually slipped a memory foam pillow behind her head. My palm, through the fabric, lightly supported the small of her back. Bai Wei sank into the soft bedding, her cheeks faintly flushed. She felt as if the air around her was filled with a sweetness like honey. After buying everything, she stared at the light-colored quilt in the shopping cart. He stared at the light-colored blanket in the shopping cart, whispered a thank you. Thank you, Gu Nancheng. I suddenly stopped walking. She instinctively bumped into my back. From now on, you don't need to say thank you. Actions speak louder than words. Before you repay me, you mustn't get into any trouble. Though she was stunned, she obediently nodded. Let's go, we're heading home. After paying, leave the address. Let the shop deliver it. I carried the clothes and took her home. Passing by the old book market on the corner, the aroma of osmanthus fermented rice drifted through the air. I bought a piping hot rice cake. I blew on it and held it to her lips. She took a bite of the sweet cake. Osmanthus petals stuck to the corner of her mouth. I casually wiped them away with my thumb. Is it good? It's sweet and fragrant. Next time I'll take you to the snack street. There's even more good food there. Hearing my silence, she gazed at my back with an infatuated look. I didn't know that she had always remembered the promise we made in the park when we were kids. When we got home with all the toiletries, the bedding had already been delivered. I was kneeling on the guest room floor, putting on the duvet cover. Bai Wei stood by, holding a new pillow. Let me do it. I'll handle it. Afraid you'd sew yourself into the quilt. I shook out the crescent patterned sheet. I turned and draped the sheet over her head like a curtain. Now the whole bed, the whole room is yours. Until you get tired of staying. These simple words instantly struck deep in her heart. She suddenly turned around. I keenly noticed a faintly sour scent in the air, seeing her shoulders trembling unnaturally. She was crying. Probably the first time she felt what it meant to have a home, to lighten the mood. I deliberately cracked a joke. Don't get too emotional yet. I'm still going to charge you rent, you know. You can stay, but you need to figure out how to pay me back. Hearing this, Bai Wei wiped the corner of her eye. She turned back, her eyes slightly red. On her face, a radiant, beautiful smile bloomed. I had just finished helping Bai Wei settle in, and was lying on the sofa to catch my breath, when an abrupt doorbell suddenly rang. Bai Wei instinctively stepped back in fright. Having experienced the tragedy of my past life, my nerves were already stretched to the limit. I dared not be the least bit careless, afraid that the killer hiding in the shadows was at the door. I jumped up suddenly, and shielded her firmly behind me. Let me take a look. Noticing my excessive protectiveness, Bai Wei was a bit surprised, but a hint of sweetness appeared in her eyes. I approached the peephole as if facing a great enemy, but found that standing outside was actually Jiang Yin, the prime suspect I had zeroed in on. On this day in my past life, Jiang Yin had never come to my house. The timeline had changed. This sudden visit instantly put me on high alert. I forced down my pounding heart and opened the door. Jiang Yin, what brings you here? Can't I come see you for no reason? Last night, the wind and rain were heavy. You got drenched so badly. I was afraid you'd catch a cold. So I specially asked my mom to teach me how to make a warming soup and brought it to you. Looking at the thermos in his hands, I suddenly understood. So it was my going to persuade him in the rain last night that moved him, thus triggering this butterfly effect. Looking at this guy in front of me, who values brotherhood so much, a loyal young man, I didn't know how to react for a moment. I actually do feel a bit lightheaded. Then have 2 bowls while it's hot. Jiang Yin was about to step inside when he suddenly saw Bai Wei, who I was shielding behind me. He was taken aback. His eyes instantly darted between the two of us. Bai Wei, you know him? Got it. Hello, sister-in-law. Looks like I came at a bad time. This brown sugar ginger date soup should be drunk hot. It's also nourishing for sister-in-law. I still have to go to the hospital to take care of my mom. Won't be a third wheel. Jiang Yin turned and ran off quickly. Watching his sunny, straightforward back, my heart was a mix of emotions. I really find it hard to believe that such a deeply loyal and righteous person could be that cruel killer. I even desperately hope to quickly find another real suspect to clear him of suspicion in my mind. Bai Wei looked in the direction Jiang Yin left. Everyone says he's the worst school bully, but why doesn't he seem like that at all? You can't judge a book by its cover. He's also someone with a story. Many things aren't as simple as they appear on the surface. I opened the thermos. A strong aroma of ginger and dates hit my nose. I ladled out 2 bowls, handed one of them to her. You got soaked pretty bad last night too. I think you've been looking pale lately. Drink more to nourish yourself. The spicy sweet soup went down my throat. A wave of warmth instantly spread through my limbs and bones. I used to always hear others badmouth him. I didn't expect he's actually a pretty decent person. It's all because life forced him to. He wouldn't have become like that otherwise. Hearing the words, life forced him, Bai Wei's expression suddenly darkened. Clearly, those few simple words also struck a deep chord in her own painful experiences. About Bai Wei's family matters, I only knew the general idea. When investigating her case in the past life, I had sought out her parents, but basically found nothing. Her parents divorced, and each formed new families. She had always lived with her mother. This made me certain that on that rainstorm night in the past life, when Bai Wei had nowhere else to go and came to me for refuge, it absolutely had to do with her family of origin. In the past life, I learned from a neighbor that on that night, Bai Wei ran out of her house in the rain because she had a conflict with her stepfather, and it seemed she even stabbed her stepfather. But when I went to ask, they flatly denied it. They said the stepfather slipped on the wet floor and accidentally bumped into the knife her mother was using to peel an apple. They also said that the stepfather, because he saw photos of a boy in Bai Wei's phone, had scolded her a few times. Scolded her a couple of times. The argument was triggered by a dinner party. Shortly after Bai Wei left home, they went to the hospital. Surveillance confirmed the time they arrived at the hospital. This ruled out their suspicion of being the perpetrator. But when they learned of Bai Wei's death, the stepfather showed no reaction, while her mother fainted on the spot. Afterward, she went completely insane. What pained me even more was that the investigation showed after Bai Wei left her mother's house, she went to her father's house, but soon after, she came out again. In the surveillance footage, she hung her head low, her mood even lower than when she arrived. That rainstorm night, she was turned away by both families of her closest kin. Finally, she came to my house. I can't bear to imagine, when she knocked on my door, how many waves of despair she must have endured. Every time I think of this, the remorse inside me drowns me like a tidal wave. Thankfully, fate gave me a second chance. I will never let go of her hand again. I carried the hot milk to the sofa. Bai Wei was curled up in the corner reading a book. The warm light outlined her thin silhouette. I caught her unconsciously, stroking the inside of her left wrist. A pale pink scar shaped like a crescent moon. Try some with honey. I placed the glass in her palm. She was about to thank me when she remembered my rule and swallowed the words back. In the warm scent of milk, I noticed she was actually looking at me. casually placed it on the bookshelf. What? You want to become a fortune teller? Yeah, once I learn. I'll do a reading for you. She gave a playful smile. As the two of them talked, a sudden screech of car brakes came from outside the window. Bai Wei's back went rigid. The milk almost spilled. I quickly grabbed her trembling hand. After confirming nothing happened outside, I sat back down beside her, gently holding her hand. Don't worry. You still owe me a debt. Until it's paid off. No one can take you away. Hearing this, Bai Wei, who had just been startled, felt her heart pound even harder. Once I learn to tell fortunes, I'll check if we're compatible. I'm afraid you might jinx your creditor. Bai Wei heard this, and her little face instantly flushed. She had already secretly compared their birth charts, and surprisingly, they were a perfect match. What's your college application choice? I have some ideas, but haven't decided yet. What about you? It's simple for me. Whatever you apply for, I'll apply for. You owe me a huge debt. If I don't stick close to you, and you run away, I'd lose everything. Bai Wei held the spoon, gently swirling it, looking at my smiling eyes. A bittersweet sweetness rose in her throat. I think I'll apply to Jingda University, or the psychology program at Kyoto Medical University. Those two universities are no joke. Why psychology? The image of his mother going crazy flashed through my mind. Did his mother have mental issues to begin with? Bai Wei opened her mouth, but in the end didn't explain. It's a good major. I'll work on my own mental resilience while I'm at it. I'll study like crazy. Then I'll tutor you. She looked at me in surprise. My grades are only average in class right now, while he's at the top of the list. What? You look down on me. No, you're lying. Every time you lie, you can't look people in the eye, and you pause when you speak. I know. Hearing this, it meant to her that I'd been secretly watching her. The sweetness in her heart instantly surpassed the milk. To prove myself, I grabbed the 5-year college entrance exam, 3-year simulation, and quickly did several pages, fast and accurate. Actually, in my past life, to get into the People's Public Security University and track down the real killer, I studied like a madman. Those problems were already etched into my soul. Seeing my hidden academic prowess, admiration shone in Bai Wei's eyes. So I'll owe you even more tutoring fees? What if I can't pay you back? Then give me the money first. I pulled out paper and pen and handed it to her, an indenture contract. It was meant as a joke, but she actually took it, bowed her head, and seriously started writing. I wanted to see what she'd write. As it turned out, Bai Wei only wrote indenture contract and contracting party, and the words Bai Wei, leaving a large blank space in the middle. She smiled and handed the paper back to me. You, my creditor, can fill in the terms yourself. So I can do whatever I want. Then what services would you like, Lord Creditor? She gave a mischievous smile. I suddenly leaned close to her ear, my warm breath brushing against the back of her ear, making her ticklish. Services aren't necessary. But there is one order. Tonight, hear this. Bai Wei nervously swallowed. At 12 you must go to sleep and not get up before 7 tomorrow. I'll make breakfast tomorrow. She looked at me in surprise, then felt a warmth in her heart, and beamed a bright smile. As you command, Lord Chieftain. After nightfall, under my authoritarian command, Bai Wei obediently went to bed. I poured her a glass of warm milk. Locking the door is fine. I stepped out, and she looked at the door handle, but ultimately didn't lock it. Back in the bedroom, I let out a long breath. In my past life, to numb the guilt, I threw myself into cases obsessively, even refused the cushy post my mentor arranged, afraid that idleness would make me think of her. Now back 10 years. She was saved, and I was finally free. After some mental self-suggestion, I fell into a deep sleep. In my dream, I returned to childhood. A corner of the park. A little girl like a porcelain doll was sobbing. Why are you crying at your age? I'm not crying. Did they bully you? I'll make them apologize. The little girl quickly grabbed him and said, it's not about anyone else. Little Gu Nancheng took out the clean handkerchief his mom had prepared, gently wiping her tears. Why are you staring at me like that? He looked at his reflection in the puddle, all innocent, making the little girl stop crying and laugh. Haha, my name is Gu Nancheng. I come here to play a lot. From now on, whenever you're unhappy, you can come find me. With his mother's call, the little boy ran off. Ring, ring, the alarm blared. I snapped my eyes open, muttering, why did I suddenly dream of childhood? At the same time, Bai Wei also fell into that dream of the park. Mom or Dad is going to leave me. Don't cry. I thought it was something serious. Both my mom and Dad left me, and I didn't cry. Little Bai Wei looked at him in surprise. She didn't expect this little boy to be so strong. He pulled her into his arms and comforted her in reverse. What will you do if your parents leave? I'll live with Grandma and Grandpa. The grown-ups said they'll come back after they finish their business. They said after Mom and Dad leave, there will be new family, and they won't want me anymore. I'm so scared. The little boy wiped her tears again, took her hand, then come to my house. My house is pretty big. I heard my mom and dad say they wanted a daughter. We can be a family. This innocent childish remark made little Bai Wei burst into tears again. So there really was a place for her in this world. But after that, he never came again. He left a piece of paper full of thanks, tucked under the spot where they used to meet. At the end of the dream, Bai Wei watched the receding figure, her eyes unknowingly wet with tears. I knocked on the guest room door and woke Bai Wei. At the dining table, I specially made red date, red bean, quick seed, and lily congee to nourish her blood. Watching her sip the congee like a little cat afraid of the heat, I couldn't help but stare. Why are you looking at me like that? I suddenly realized you look like someone. A little girl I met when I was very young. She moved away in less than half a month. I think you look just like her. Didn't she say goodbye to you? Hearing Bai Wei's follow-up question, I sank into memory. No goodbye in person. I just found a torn little note, only then realized he had left. The note was ruined by rain. Only half remained. I looked at Bai Wei. The more I looked, the more she resembled that little girl. I asked her about her childhood, if she had ever met a little boy in the park, but she just smiled playfully and told me to guess. At this moment, Bai Wei's mood visibly brightened. She finally understood why I had no reaction when I heard her name back then. It was because the note with her name had been torn away. Knowing that I had always remembered her, rarely rebellious, she didn't give me the answer directly. I guess you're not her. Because you're much prettier than her. Watching her face flush instantly, I smirked in satisfaction. After breakfast, I planned to take her out to buy a phone. After all, I couldn't keep her tied to me 24/7. At the same time, I was mulling over how to ask my mom, who was far away, for a loan. Last night's clothes and premium bedding had already maxed out my credit card. I just messaged asking to borrow 5,000. But to my surprise, Mom directly transferred 50,000. Seeing the message from Mom, if it's not enough, and her advice to date properly, I gave a wry smile. It seemed Aunt Sue had already told her about me taking a girl to buy underwear. With this strong financial backing, I felt much more at ease, with nothing to do on Sunday. Is there anywhere you'd like to go? I want to visit the park in the old city. The park in the old city. Wasn't that where I met that little girl back then? Combined with what he just said, and the background of divorced and remarried parents, plus his habit of avoiding eye contact when lying, and pausing mid-sentence, all the details clicked into place perfectly. My heart gave a violent lurch. In my past life, after his death, my world fell into darkness. I had no time to recall childhood memories. Now, thinking back carefully, he was that little girl from back then. That park is perfect for flying kites. We can buy a kite on the way. Then after flying it, we can hit the snack street. Okay, I've never flown a kite before. Seeing him get excited like a child over the prospect of flying a kite, my heart filled with tenderness. What is ordinary for most people was a rare experience for her. I made a silent vow. No matter how many colors she had missed, I would fill them in one by one. First, let's get you a phone. You're not carrying a phone. If something happens, where will your creditor find you? Hearing this flimsy excuse, she smiled and nodded, pushing open the glass door of the phone shop. The clerk enthusiastically lifted the dust cover and recommended the pink phone for young couples. Hearing that term, Bai Wei shyly clutched the hem of her light green skirt. I pointed at the sunset pink phone priced at 4,888 yuan. Seeing her staring at the price in a daze, I reached out and blocked her view. Don't look at what you shouldn't see. Your creditor decides. The clerk brought a demo unit to teach us selfies. The viewfinder caught my profile. Bai Wei fumbled and pressed the shutter, but the photo only caught a corner of my sleeve. You need to be this close for a good selfie. I leaned in and held her hand. The warmth of my palm seeped through the back of her hand. I pressed the shutter practically against her temple. The screen lit up. In the frame, she tilted her head slightly. My cheek brushed against her hair. The glass behind us reflected our overlapping shadows. Anyone would think we were a young couple sneaking a selfie. After buying the phone, the clerk offered to engrave the couple's initials for free. Then engrave these. GNCM. Bai Wei stared at the letters, utterly confused. The first three are my name's initials. But what do the last two letters mean? As we walked out of the shop, she was still pondering in a daze, almost tripping on the doorstep. I reached out and caught her steadily in my arms. The light fragrance of her hair filled my nose. Watch where you're going. Silly girl, just tell me. Otherwise I can't stop thinking about it. She tugged at my sleeve in a rare display of feistiness. All right, I give in. I'm your creditor. Stands for my master. Of course, it could also mean other things. Bai Wei's eyes lit up with understanding. Suddenly, she seemed to think of something else. Her heartbeat quickened abruptly. Her delicate face flushed crimson again. Watching Bai Wei's blushing face, I chuckled inwardly. Those two letters, She must have thought of man. My man. I didn't spell out that layer. This kind of shy, expectant maiden's heart made her look especially lovely at that moment. The bus rumbled and swayed toward the old city, where our childhoods overlapped. I took out one earbud and gently placed it in her ear. Have you heard this song? Zheng Jihua's Don't Cry. My beloved, I really like it. In that instant, a flood of memories flashed through my mind. In my past life, I listened to this song countless times late at night, mourning her tragic death. The lyric, "Tonight I bloom like an epiphyllum, wither in the most beautiful moment," felt like a prophecy of her fate. From the earbuds came Lei Ting's ethereal, melancholic cover. Bai Wei listened, and as she did, tears silently slid down her face. I didn't know. In her past life, she had thought of ending her life on the rooftop countless times. It was the shadow of that little boy from childhood that had supported her until now. The tears now were her farewell to her past gloomy self. I was lost in sorrow when a soft hand gently touched my cheek. Bai Wei's eyes held a heart-wrenching tenderness. Just like when we were kids, she suddenly pulled me into a tight embrace. The warmth from her back overlapped with the little girl who comforted me in the park. I didn't pull away, letting time stand still in that moment. The morning sun spilled through the bus window, dispelling the heavy gloom that had long weighed on our hearts. We got off the bus. The wind in the old city carried the scent of camphor leaves. The breakfast stalls, the bicycle bells around us. Everything was unchanged. We walked toward the kite stall. Bai Wei was like a curious child, sticking close behind me. We stopped at a kite stand. Her eyes immediately fell on the peach-pink butterfly. Young couple want one each? This blue one matches nicely. If we fly two kites, how will I find an excuse to hold her hand? The shop owner was taken aback by my joke. Bai Wei covered her mouth with a light laugh. Her earlier nervousness faded away. The spring breeze brushed our faces. I ran ahead with the kite, demonstrating how to launch it. Speed up, run. Under my guidance. The butterfly kite finally caught the wind and soared. Bai Wei looked up at the sky, her eyes sparkling with a light I'd never seen before. Want to give it a try? I handed her the spool. Suddenly a gust of wind hit. She stumbled. I wrapped my arms around her from behind, my warm palm covering hers. Baby, your fingertips are cold. I breathed in the jasmine scent of her hair. Nancheng, I remember when we were kids, you always said clouds look like cotton candy, and wanted to know what they tasted like. Now I found something even more like it. It's you, because your smile is just like cotton candy. Soft and sweet. Right in the middle of our sweet moment, suddenly spotted a familiar figure crouching nearby. Jiang Yan, what are you doing here? Jiang Yan was startled. Ah, old goo, nothing much. He laughed it off, saying he was waiting for a friend. Following Jiang Yan's gaze, I saw he was staring at a girl with a ponytail helping at her father's barbecue stall. Lost in thought as he watched that girl, I suddenly remembered the tragic events of Jiang Yan's past life. In his past life, Jiang Yan fell in love with this girl. To overcome the girl's father's prejudice, caused by his reputation as a school bully, Jiang Yan put in tremendous effort, cut his hair short, bore the pain, and removed his tattoos, cut off his bad crowd of friends, quit smoking, even his clothes became neat and clean. But no matter how he changed, in the girl's father's eyes, he was still a wolf trying to trick his daughter's affections. The girl felt for Jiang Yan, ran away from home in a fit of defiance, and moved in with him. Jiang Yan's mother was happy, but often advised the girl to go back and talk things out with her father. Who would have thought the girl's father not only didn't understand, but brought the police directly to their door, in front of all the neighbors, loudly accusing Jiang Yan of ruining his daughter's honor, threatening to sue him for rape. Jiang Yan's mother already suffered from severe uremia and complications. The shock sent her into a rage, a surge of fire to the heart. She died on the spot. The girl's father was completely stunned. He only meant to scare Jiang Yan, never imagined it would lead to a death. A perfectly good relationship instantly turned into a blood feud. Jiang Yan's mother was his only emotional pillar. Overwhelming grief and rage nearly made him attack right then, even though later the girl's father regretted and relented. How could Jiang Yan go against his conscience and be with the daughter of his mother's murderer? In the end, they went their separate ways. Not long after, Jiang Yan dropped out and left this city. Years later, I ran into her while investigating a case. She had become a tattered, half-naked, homeless person sleeping under a bridge. She had gone mad. The only words she repeated, she had a mother-killer enemy, seeking revenge. Extreme pain had burned away her sanity. She had forgotten how to take revenge, and could only spend the rest of her life in madness. Recalling the way she looked, vacant and foolish, the pain in my heart was no less than witnessing Bai Wei's tragedy. So, even if in the past life that knife pointed suspicion at him, I firmly believed he was never that kind of heinous murderer. Since heaven gave me another chance, I cannot let the tragedy repeat. I plan to give the prepared 100,000 yuan fugitive tip reward to Jiang Yan, with the official endorsement of the police. The girl's father's prejudice against him would definitely be greatly reduced. Easy. What's up, old gua? I'll tell you at school tomorrow. Jiang Yan scratched his head, looking confused. As the two were talking, a guy holding a little boy's hand passed by. When he saw me, he froze on the spot. Yi, what a coincidence. Taking your brother out for a stroll? Yi nodded expressionlessly, seeming unsure what expression to use with me. Hello, brother Gu. His younger brother Yi Shi was sweet-tempered. Because I'd helped his brother before, he felt very close to me. You too, Xiaoxi, good boy. I smiled and reached out to ruffle Yi Shi's hair, but Bai Wei keenly sensed that Yi Shi's look at me was off. When Gu Nancheng touched Yi Shi, Yi Shi's eyes revealed an uncontrollable urge and feverish intensity. He was extremely jealous that his younger brother could get close to Gu Nancheng. He wished he could take his place. Such strong emotion made his whole body tremble slightly. Bai Wei was frightened by that eerie, fervent look. She couldn't tell if it was extreme malice or some kind of disturbing goodwill. Sensing Bai Wei's gaze, Yi Shi suddenly turned his head and stared at her sharply. Bai Wei was so startled she sidestepped and hid behind me, gripping my sleeve tightly. I looked up at Yi Shi. He instantly reigned in all his intensity, reverting to that lifeless, dim appearance. I don't get it either. What goes through his head normally? You two keep walking. I'm full, I'll head off first. Yi Shi nodded nervously, leaning forward slightly. Bai Wei, are you really full? School tomorrow. Go to bed early tonight. I'm not making you any midnight snacks. Hearing that, Yi Shi's pupils dilated. He opened his mouth as if to ask something, but in the end shut it. I'm full, let's go. Bai Wei seemed a bit scared. She pulled me and hurried out of the food street, until his little brother tugged at his sleeve. Brother. Only then did Yi Shi look away from the street corner, and show a rare warm smile to his family. Bai Wei had eaten too much. She sat on the sofa gently rubbing her belly. I sat down beside her, took her two small hands, and placed them overlapping on her stomach, showing her how to rub in clockwise circles. Watching my patient, earnest expression, Bai Wei blushed. This warm atmosphere made her feel more comfortable than at her own biological parents' home. I went to the kitchen and made her a cup of honey, mint, and lemon water. Meanwhile, Bai Wei on the sofa suddenly fell into a fear of losing what she had. The long-term repression of her family of origin made her afraid that this dreamlike beauty before her was just a false bubble. Terrified that tomorrow she'd wake up to that cold, empty home, I noticed her unease. walked over, and pressed my forehead to hers to check her temperature. After confirming she didn't have a fever, I sat down beside her. Honey lemon water with a little mint. Good for digestion. I scooped up the tea with a porcelain spoon and slowly brought it to her lips. She was shy and wanted to drink it herself, but I insisted on feeding her spoon by spoon, claiming it wouldn't make her feel more full. With each swallow of tea, the sweet and sour warmth slid down her throat into her stomach. Seeing my gentle, unwearying movements, Bai Wei's eyes glistened with tears. The long-suppressed depression and anxiety inside her was slowly melting away in this thick sense of security. That night, Bai Wei slept soundly. In her dream, she saw her deceased grandparents. With tears of happiness, she told them that she had met a very, very good boy. At the end of the dream, she held my hand and waved goodbye to her grandparents in the sky. As the long-accumulated psychological illness slowly healed, her state of mind gradually began to change. Finally, she found a long-lost sense of peace and calm. The next morning, Bai Wei got up early and made breakfast. Watching her busy figure, I noticed she seemed completely different. Her mood had become much brighter and more optimistic. After breakfast, we changed into our school uniforms and walked out the door side by side. Bai Wei, let's find a time in the next couple of days to go to your place and move your things over. Hearing the word home, Bai Wei visibly flinched, her fingertips suddenly clenching tight. She had no idea how to face those two broken families. I held her icy left hand firmly, passing the warmth of my palm to her. Don't worry. You don't have to be afraid of your family objecting. I have a way to stop them. Gu Nancheng, I really don't want to go back anymore. She held my hand in return, her eyes full of pure trust and strong longing. Trust me, I won't let you go back. Right now, you owe me a debt. You're not allowed to run away until it's paid off. Bai Wei smiled and nodded. After witnessing the brightest light of this life, he finally found the courage to escape that darkness completely. The next day, Bai Wei and I walked side by side to school. The classroom was filled with the sound of students reading aloud. Bai Wei and I had just sat down in our seats when Su Jin, my deskmate, leaned in with a gossipy look. Hey, I heard you two went to the night market together yesterday, and it was really sweet. Is it true? Bai Wei blushed shyly. Surprised, I reached out and pinched Su Jin's cheek, which was gilded by the sunlight. Who told you? Come on, confess. Ow. It was Yi Zi's younger brother. Yi Zi told me. He said you were on a date with a pretty girl. I let go helplessly. A few boys in the class heard the gossip and started teasing too. I swept a serious look over them, and they settled down to continue morning reading. Just then, a middle-aged woman, still bearing traces of her former charm, suddenly appeared at the classroom door. I took a glance and realized it was Bai Wei's biological mother. The moment she appeared, Bai Wei's body went rigid. She instinctively turned to me for help. The homeroom teacher walked to the door and exchanged a few words, then turned to look into the classroom. Bai Wei, your mother is looking for you. After receiving a subtle look from me, Bai Wei took a deep breath, stood up, and walked to the classroom door. As soon as she stepped out, her mother put on an apologetic expression, exchanged a few words with Teacher He, and Teacher He tactfully withdrew into the classroom. I sat in my seat, my gaze passing through the window. Bai Wei stood not far from the door, keeping her eyes lowered the whole time, lips tightly shut, letting her mother chatter on across from her. After a long while, her mother seemed to coldly throw out some remark, then turned and left. That morning, because of my promise, Bai Wei had regained a bit of vitality, but when she returned to her seat, her mood visibly plummeted. She looked up at me uneasily. I didn't ask further. I simply gave her a firm, meaningful smile. Seeing my smile, her tense shoulders relaxed slightly, and her expression gradually calmed. Bai Wei, what did your mom want? Nothing much, just family stuff. Adult matters. Kids shouldn't meddle. When morning reading ends, I'll take you to the convenience store and we'll pig out. Now just focus on your book. I lightly tapped Su Jin on the head with a book, that gossipy little head, effortlessly covering for Bai Wei. But in my heart, I had already mapped out my next move. Since the shadows of her biological family followed like a ghost, I had to earn more legitimate reasons to stay by her side. As morning reading was about to end, I walked straight to the podium, and in Teacher He's ear, I quietly made a request. At your age, academics should still come first. Teacher, how about we make a bet? On this week's final exam, if I can get into the top 10 of the class, you'll agree to let me change seats, to sit next to her. Hearing top 10, Teacher He's calm eyes lit up instantly. He wasn't rigid. If you can turn adolescent confusion into motivation to work hard, in his eyes, that's actually a plus. I admire your courage. Fine, as long as you make the top 10, the teacher will agree. I smiled and pinky swore with him. Back at my seat, I immediately flipped open my English textbook and began reviewing almost frantically. My desk mate, Huang Mao, looked at me like I was a monster, exclaiming that I'd suddenly gotten hooked on drugs. I ignored him, because I knew this was a game I had to win. As soon as morning reading ended, I kept my promise, taking Bai Wei and Su Jin to the convenience store. Su Jin picked out 10 yuan worth of snacks, trying to get back at me for pinching her cheek that morning. Seeing that Bai Wei was still in low spirits, I took a lollipop from the shelf and handed it to her. Eat something sweet to replenish your sugar. You'll feel better. Remember what I said this morning. I'll take care of everything after school. Bai Wei held the lollipop, took a few deep breaths, and finally, gave me a bright smile that no longer seemed forced. Just as we walked out of the store, I saw Jiang Yin sitting lazily on the flower bed, his eyes fixed intently on a ponytailed girl who was helping with a barbecue nearby. Chu Danwan. He was so engrossed, he didn't even notice us approaching. If you keep staring like that, you'll be taken for a stalker sooner or later. Jiang Yin snapped back to reality and stammered, "Old goo," when he saw us. Adding sister-in-law, which made Bai Wei blush. I told Bai Wei and Su Jin to go back to the classroom first, then turned and sat down next to Jiang Yin. "Since I caught you, let me give you some advice, bro. Chasing a girl boils down to one word: sincerity. But what I worry about isn't Chu Danwan not accepting you. It's that her extremely traditional father will definitely disapprove of your current school bully look." Jiang Yan's face instantly clouded with worry. In the past life, it was precisely this stubborn prejudice that led to Jiang Yan's mother being forced to give in, and she died from a fit of rage. Jiang Yan eventually went mad. In this life, I absolutely cannot let the tragedy repeat. I have a way to make him change his opinion of you. I know. A lead on a wanted criminal with a 100,000 yuan reward. You go report it to the police. Once the cops catch him, this great merit will be yours. Then, with the police's endorsement and the school's commendation, if Chu's father still criticizes your look, you can say you were enduring hardship undercover to help solve the case by blending in with the thugs. He'll definitely see you in a new light. Holy shit, old goo. That's a solid plan. Then we split the 100,000 reward 50-50. You take 50,000. That'll ease the pressure of Andy's medical bills. And you'll have more time to chase the girl. The info is absolutely reliable. You in? Brothers in heart. With that from you, there's nothing more to say. I had just finalized the plan with Jiang Yan when I saw Chu Danwan mustering the courage to walk over. I tactfully retreated to a corner and secretly watched. Jiang Yan, a tall guy at 180 centimeters, when facing Chu Danwan, was actually as nervous as a scolded elementary student, even stuttering his words. It turned out Chu Danwan had once called the police to help him out of a jam. He had thought the legendary school bully was a fearsome demon, but never expected such a shy stutterer. Watching Jiang Yan follow the girl step by step, this old father finally felt at ease. Turning around, I saw Yi Zi standing quietly not far away. "Last Friday night. I'm really sorry about that. Were you okay afterward?" "I'm fine. Here, return this to you. I sent the jacket to the dry cleaners. I'll give it back when I pick it up." I took the cleanly washed handkerchief, patted his shoulder, telling him to come to me anytime if something came up. Then I turned and went back to the classroom. As soon as I entered, I snatched away the chocolate Su Jin had secretly hidden in her drawer. Amid Su Jin's protests, I handed the last piece to Bai Wei. Bai Wei gently broke the chocolate in half and gave half to Su Jin. The classroom was filled with the vibrant energy of youth. Back in my seat, I pulled out my phone and received a fax from my mom. It was a nanny work contract. The contract terms were clear: monthly salary 6,000, free room and board provided, never engage in work harmful to physical and mental health. Looking at this contract, I let out a long breath of relief. This was not just an employment document. This was a legal shield I had tailored specifically for Bai Wei, as long as she signed this contract, proving she was over 18 and had a salary sufficient to live independently. Her parents' custodial rights would no longer be able to interfere with or abuse her, since those two families couldn't give her warmth. Then I would use legal means to personally drag her out of that dark quagmire. After confirming the contract was correct, I sent the compiled detailed information on the fugitive to Jiang Yan. Looking at the bright sunlight outside the window, I knew that the new life for Bai Wei and me was finally about to truly begin. Just as school let out, we reached the school gate. Bai Wei's body suddenly stiffened. She took a step sideways and instinctively hid behind me. I followed her gaze. It turned out to be her biological father, Bai Chengfeng, standing there. I guess Bai Wei hadn't been home for 2 days. Her mother came to school this morning and couldn't find her, so she turned around and went to find her father. "I've got your back. Talk to him if you want. If you don't want to, I'll deal with it. Don't worry about anything." Bai Wei's pale cheeks, in the spring breeze, they were like crumpled rice paper. She took 2 deep breaths and slowly relaxed her tense body. She followed me as we continued forward. We deliberately ignored Bai Chengfeng and walked straight out of the school gate, but we hadn't gone far when hurried footsteps came from behind. "Bai Wei, wait a moment. Your mother said you haven't been home for 2 or 3 days. What's going on?" Bai Chengfeng asked, but Bai Wei's eyes silently sized me up. Bai Wei pursed her lips, her whole body trembling, unable to say a word. I didn't hesitate. Right in front of her father, I firmly grasped her ice-cold hand. This scene stunned Bai Chengfeng into stillness. Bai Wei also looked at me in surprise, fear in her eyes, afraid that her father might do something to me because of this. "What's going on?" "You should know very well what's going on. Friday night, such a heavy rainstorm, but she didn't even have a home to take shelter in. What do you think happened?" "Who are you?" "I'm her classmate." "Let go of her hand. Stay away from our Bai Wei. Your family, in that heavy rainstorm, would rather watch your own daughter get soaked outside than take her in for one night. How could that place still be her home? For a selfish, cold hypocrite like this, I had no intention of saving any face. "You bastard, who do you think you are? Who are you to lecture me? Our family matters are none of your business. Let go immediately, or I'll go to your teacher and parents." "Humph. Fine. How about I call my parents right now? If you want to hear them scold you too, I wouldn't mind. You're molesting a female student. If you don't let go, I'll call the police. Filing a false police report will get you detained. State agencies are not your personal bodyguards. I advise you, uncle, you'd better calm down." Bai Chengfeng couldn't win the argument, so he reached out to forcibly pull Bai Wei away. My eyes turned cold. I twisted my hand and grabbed his wrist. The arrest techniques I learned in my past life on the police force made my strength far exceed that of an ordinary high school student. Bai Chengfeng grunted in pain. I'm only going to tell you 3 things now. Listen carefully. First, Bai Wei's custody is with her mother. You have no right to forcibly control or touch her. Please take your hand off. Second, at the moment she needed protection most, you stood by and watched as she was forced into the rainstorm. What right and face do you have today to stand here pretending? Third, he is already an adult and capable of supporting himself. He doesn't need your charity. If there's nothing else, we still have to go have lunch. Goodbye. Having said that, I forcefully shook off his hand. If you dare to bother us again, I'll go to your company and hang a banner, so your colleagues and bosses can all hear how you, on that stormy night, shut your own daughter out of your home. I think that should really affect your career advancement. I had exactly struck the vital point of a selfish man like him. Bai Qingfeng was completely frozen in place, struck dumb by my words. On our way home, Bai Wei kept looking up at me. She found me familiar yet strange. I exuded an air of a maturity that didn't belong to a high schooler at all. I'm sorry, Bai Wei. I couldn't control my emotions just now. I took the liberty of confronting your father. I didn't consider your feelings. I suddenly regretted it a bit. After all, he is her biological father. Me being so confrontational might put her in a difficult position, torn both ways. I'm very happy that he gently squeezed my palm. His fingertips unconsciously rubbed against the back of my hand. He lowered his eyes. The way you stood in front of me, the way you unhesitatingly spoke up for me, even though you're just a high school student, you dared to confront my father face to face. I'm really, truly happy. He lifted his head. Only then did I notice that at some point, his face was already streaked with tears. I took out a handkerchief and gently wiped his reddened eyes. Why cry when you're happy? He didn't speak. He just looked at me and broke into an incredibly bright smile. These tears held complete release from the past, and even more, joy for a new beginning. Silly girl, crying one moment and laughing the next. But there's nothing wrong with crying. Being able to laugh after crying, that's healthy. Hearing my gentle words, Bai Wei felt a certain block of ice that had been lodged in her heart finally melt completely. Back home, I scooped out 2 bowls from the rice cooker, heaping bowls of taro pork rib rice. Too much, I can't finish it. There's a kind of hunger called the owner thinks you're hungry. Don't worry, eat. Even if you grow to 200 gene, I'll always let you stay here. If you really do get fat, at worst, I'll be your demon trainer and help you lose weight. Don't torment yourself for your figure. Girls with a little plumpness are cute. Like Su Jin, so nice to pinch. Then if I get chubby, won't I be pinched and bullied by you every day? I couldn't bear to. Besides, you're my employee now. Bullying you would be workplace harassment. If you report me to the labor bureau, I can't afford to pay. I don't even have a contract. What would I use to report you? Who says there isn't one? I put down my chopsticks, walked over to the fax machine, and handed a document to her. I've had the indenture contract ready for you for a while. Sign it after you finish eating. Bai Wei looked at the name on the contract and was a bit surprised. Dad, did you tell your mom? This matter has to be handled by him to be legal. Did he say anything else? He did. He said if you can't take good care of her, I'll fire you. Especially this clause. Take care of daily living. For example, if it's too cold in bed at night, you'll have to warm it up for me. Clearly a tyrannical clause. That kind of special service costs extra. Seeing that he was no longer as awkward and shy as before, he'd even learned to joke with me. I couldn't help laughing out loud. This contract of freedom had finally completely sheltered him under my wings. The air around the dining table held a touch of warmth. Bai Wei flipped through the papers on the table. He had thought it was just my perfunctory joke, but found the terms detailed down to the last item. So formal, it was staggering. You're not really planning to pay me the salary written here, are you? Signed in black and white. Of course it's legally binding. If I don't pay you, you can sue me later. I'd have to pay several times the compensation. That won't do. Let's not write this contract then. Watching his flustered expression, I slowly took a sip of milk, already having a plan in mind. This contract isn't just a private game between us. Its real purpose is to fend off any future trouble your parents might cause. At the word parents, I keenly noticed. His shoulders flinched almost imperceptibly, his eyes full of confusion. What do my parents have to do with it? You've just come of age, but before you have a stable income, you're still under their absolute control. But according to Article 18 of the Civil Code, as long as you have a stable income sufficient to support yourself, you're considered to have full capacity for civil conduct. I quickly unlocked my phone screen, pulled up the relevant legal provision, and handed it to him. Simply put, as long as this job exists, you have the right to refuse any forced interference from your parents. If they pressure you, you can use the law to protect yourself. Is that really true? An outsider couldn't possibly imagine the kind of family cold violence that kills without drawing blood, and the desperate corner it had driven him into. Now, looking at the legal text, I finally saw the darkness in his eyes completely lift, a vitality I'd never seen before shone through. Now you see the benefit, right? After we finish eating, just sign it obediently. But $6,000 a month is really too much. My mom only earns $3,000 a month. I can't even do a nanny's job well. How about cutting it in half? Silly girl, you eat my food and live under my roof. In the end, I'll take this money back from you anyway. This number is just for show for outsiders. The money will all be mine in the end. Oh, then I'm relieved. Watching him instantly relax, he wolfed down the braised rib rice in his bowl, as if even the grains of rice had become sweet and delicious. I couldn't help teasing him again. Just kidding. Not a single cent will be less. If you think it's too much. From now on, all household expenses come out of your salary. Let me really enjoy being kept by someone for once. Sure, I Bai Wei promise. From now on, with my own salary, I'll keep you Nancheng for a lifetime. Eating, drinking, recording video as proof. After the meal, in high spirits, he signed the contract. Even humming a light tune, he forcibly shooed me out of the kitchen, put on gloves himself, and happily started washing the dishes. The living room fell silent. I suddenly remembered the calming herb I brought back from Grandma and Grandpa's last night. The old folks said, putting this under your pillow helps you sleep more soundly. I was too busy yesterday and totally forgot. I walked into the guest room. The bed was made up immaculately by him. The air carried a faint, pleasant scent. I walked straight to the window, casually lifted the pillow, but my gaze instantly froze. A cold fruit knife lay quietly beneath the pillow. My pupils constricted sharply. This knife was almost exactly the same as the murder weapon the forensic examiner deduced in my past life. Almost a perfect match. This definitely isn't a knife from my home. From the moment he showed up on the streets in the rainstorm, this knife had been clinging to him the whole time. Countless images from my past life exploded in my mind. The possibility of suicide was absolutely ruled out, because the angle of the wound was completely wrong. But if the murder weapon itself was something he carried, then all those people I had ruled out before, because they had no weapon on them. The bullied Yezi, the thugs, the passing homeless man, the delivery driver, even anyone who brushed past him, since the weapon was on him. Then anyone who passed through that area on the night of the crime could have grabbed the knife and committed the murder. All my previous deductions were completely overturned by this knife of mine. After washing the dishes, he stood at the doorway without me noticing. Seeing me frozen, holding the pillow, and then seeing the exposed fruit knife on the bed, extreme panic instantly surged in his eyes. Afraid I would misunderstand. It's okay, you don't have to explain. A girl alone outside, having that kind of safety awareness is a good thing. I pulled her tightly into my arms, feeling her stiffness and helplessness. But in the depths of my eyes, I was frantically sorting through the messy case details from my past life. In this life, I swear I will never let tragedy repeat. Whether it was me letting her in, letting her stay, or discovering the knife she hid under her pillow for protection, I didn't mind at all. This acceptance and trust of mine made Bai Wei feel like something was stuck in her throat. She had thousands of grateful words she wanted to say to me, but couldn't utter a single one. Bai Wei recalled the words her grandmother once said. In a lifetime, as long as you meet the right person. When he was little, he didn't understand why his parents always fought. That's how his grandmother answered him. Now he finally understood. Even though this happiness is something many people spend their whole lives trying but failing to obtain, he felt, deep down, how incredibly lucky he was to have met me. He took a few deep breaths, calmed himself down. He slowly walked to the bedside and took that fruit knife, which had once given him a false sense of security, and silently put it into the drawer of the cabinet. From now on, he no longer needed that cold thing. Back in the living room, I was taking 2 cups of yogurt out of the fridge. I smiled and twisted open one cup, brought the lid with cream on it to his lips. Have some yogurt after the meal. Good for your health. Come on, lick it. Don't waste it. Bai Wei stared blankly at the lid so close to her. Under the warm yellow light, I looked at him with a smile, shook the lid in my hand. The tips of his ears burned. Obediently, he parted his lips slightly and leaned toward the plastic lid. The moment his tongue curled up the yogurt, sweet and sour burst on his taste buds, watching him look as adorable as a little cat. For a moment, I was almost entranced. I was afraid you wouldn't like the plain flavor. So I opened a sweet one for you. How is it? Pretty good. I twisted open my own cup and drank it down in gulps. He saw the yogurt trace on my lips, instinctively picked up a tissue and gently wiped it off for me. After doing that, he suddenly realized how intimate the moment was. Hastily stepped back, sat down shyly, on the sofa, holding the bottle in both hands, sipping slowly. Though he looked like he was obediently drinking yogurt, I knew all his attention was on me. I watched him with keen interest. My gaze climbed from his trembling knees to his tightly clasped hands, making him shyly rub his bare ankles together unconsciously. I saw through his nervousness, found it quite amusing. So I smiled and sat down next to him. Miss Nanny, could I borrow your shoulder for a nap? Lying flat after a full meal isn't comfortable. Much better if I have someone to lean on. Bai Wei blushed and nodded. When I leaned gently against her, the tips of my hair brushed her collarbone. She instantly froze stiff, as if even my blood had frozen solid. My breath brushed against the side of her neck. She could only hold her breath, trying her best to match my rhythm. These 5 minutes felt both short and long to her. The breeze from the window messed up her hair. A few strands landed on my forehead, making me frown slightly. She playfully reached out, picked up the strands, and gently swept them across my forehead. But then I turned sideways, and my forehead ended up buried against her cheek. Half my head rested on her chest. Suddenly, I caught a special fragrance. I snapped my eyes open. When I realized my current state, I quickly sat up straight. I actually fell asleep. Sorry. I wasn't trying to cop a feel. You keep saying I look exhausted, but I think you're not much better, since you can fall asleep so quickly leaning on me. Get some more rest. Feeling the comfort of his hand on my cheek, I smiled and said nothing more. At ease, I closed my eyes. In my past life as a criminal investigator, I was always alert. My sleep was very light. This was the first time I had fallen asleep so quickly and peacefully, next to someone else. Gradually, he too rested his head against mine in the breeze, and fell into a deep sleep. As we slept, I somehow slid down, and pillowed my head on his soft thigh, and now I turned slightly sideways, like hugging a body pillow, my arms wrapped tightly around her supple waist. Bai Wei slowly woke up. Seeing this scene, her small face instantly turned crimson. But she didn't resist at all. Instead, she gently placed her hand on my back, watching me hold her tightly like a little puppy. He felt utterly enchanted. The alarm bell suddenly rang. Ring ring, jolting me awake from my dream. As soon as I woke, I found myself holding something soft, my head still resting on his leg. I jumped off the sofa in shock. Ah, be careful. When did my sleeping posture get so bad? I scratched my head, looking dazed. I quickly rushed into the bathroom and washed my face. When I came out, I saw him looking at me with a smile, not minding my earlier intrusion at all. Only then did I breathe a sigh of relief. Actually, I was afraid that my overly intimate actions would upset him, make him feel wronged. Now that I confirmed his affection for me was high enough, I immediately made a decision. Come on, let's go to your place and get your luggage. Dusk had just fallen. The setting sun in the west coated Bai Wei's old apartment building in a gloomy orange-red. The closer we got to her doorstep, the more I could feel Bai Wei's steps turning rigid. His heartbeat seemed to echo in the dead silent stairwell. A few residents came and went, their eyes frequently sweeping across our faces. Oh, Xiao Wei, your boyfriend is quite handsome. Lu Yi, who was always prying into everyone's private life, teased as he went downstairs. Bai Wei's face flushed red. She didn't deny it, only lowered her head even more. I ignored the gossip and led her straight to the 4th floor. Bai Wei hadn't even noticed that all along the way, he hadn't guided me. Yet I stopped precisely at her door. At the door of 402, Bai Wei took out the keys, but her hands were shaking so much she couldn't aim at the keyhole. I could imagine how heavy that click of the lock opening was for her. Her mind had gone completely blank. No idea what was waiting for her behind the door. Seeing her frozen in place, afraid to open the door, I reached out and turned the knob for her. As the door opened, the house was utterly silent. Bai Wei let out a huge sigh of relief. Not having to face her mother directly eased her tense nerves a little. Just when we thought no one was home, a bedroom door suddenly opened. Out came a little boy about 7 years old. That was her half-brother, Li Mingyu. Sis, where have you been these past few days? At a classmate's place. Xiaoyu, where are mom and dad? No matter how badly her parents treated her, she always regarded this little brother as family. But every time she saw him, she would remember how her parents doted on him and ignored her. That always made her feelings incredibly complicated. Mom and dad are at the hospital. Mom should be back soon to cook dinner. Is this handsome big brother your boyfriend, sis? Hearing her brother say that, Bai Wei's cheeks flushed, and she instinctively stole a glance at me. Seeing that I didn't react, she didn't explain either. But hearing that mom was coming back soon, she panicked immediately and decided to hurry and pack her things. And at the words, the hospital, the bloody truth deliberately concealed on that stormy night surfaced again in both my and Bai Wei's memories. Last Friday night, Li Fengji forcibly went through Bai Wei's phone. In the album, she found photos Bai Wei had secretly taken of me. Li Fengji's mental state, already extremely fragile due to her ex-husband Bai Chengfeng's infidelity, was already fragile. Those photos completely touched her most sensitive nerve. At that moment, Li Fengji projected all her hatred for her ex-husband onto Bai Wei, berating her with the most despicable words. Shameless. In Bai Wei's desperate, wronged eyes, a completely deranged Li Fengji actually grabbed the fruit knife from the table, roaring that she would slash her daughter's face. Seeing this, her stepfather Li Gang rushed forward desperately to snatch the knife. In the scuffle, the blade turned, and Li Fengji stumbled, plunging the knife deep into Li Gang's abdomen. The smell of blood finally brought Li Fengji back to her senses. She slumped in the pool of blood, crying bitterly. Li Gang's desperate blocking of the knife at that time wasn't to protect Bai Wei, but to protect the wife he deeply loved, to keep her from committing murder. He had harbored a secret crush on Li Fengji since childhood, loving her stubbornly and humbly. Even if his wife went mad, he was willing to devote every bit of his care to her, yet never spared a shred of love for his innocent stepdaughter. Facing her husband lying in a pool of blood, Li Fengji turned her head, glared fiercely at the terrified Bai Wei, and roared that line. You jinx, get out. The farther the better. And so, penniless Bai Wei was driven out into the desperate rainstorm. She shook her head, shaking those cruel memories out of her mind. Bai Wei told her brother to go back to his room and do his homework, then pulled me into her bedroom. She dragged out a pink suitcase and started frantically stuffing clothes into it. I scanned the room, and my eyes landed on a small notebook in her drawer, locked with a tiny padlock. In my past life, I had opened this diary after her death. It was densely filled with entries, all of which were happy things she had forced herself to remember, to find the courage to keep living. In this life, I didn't touch it, although Bai Wei didn't say what to bring. Based on my knowledge of her, I silently picked out the books and notes she valued most, and arranged them neatly on the desk. When she finished packing her clothes and turned around, she saw that everything I had picked out was exactly what she wanted to take, and everything left behind was what she wanted to discard. She froze on the spot, a deep, indescribable gratitude welling up in her eyes. So while she had been secretly watching the boy had been watching her with equal tenderness. After everything was packed, Bai Wei took out a piece of paper, left a short note, and we pulled the suitcase out of the room. We pull our suitcases and walk out of the room. Bai Wei placed the note on the dining table. She turned and started walking toward the front door. Click! The lock on the door suddenly turned. The next moment, the door was pushed open. Li Fengji's figure appeared at the doorway. The air instantly froze. Bai Wei's hand, gripping the suitcase handle, trembled violently. Li Fengji also stood frozen in place, until Li Mingyu, hearing the commotion, opened his door and called out, Mom, I'm hungry, breaking the dead silence. Li Fengji suppressed the urge to explode, gently coaxed her son back to his room. The moment the bedroom door closed, her face immediately turned icy cold. She stared at Bai Wei in disbelief, her eyes fixed. What do you think you're doing now? All grown up, wings hard, huh? Mom can't control you anymore. Found a man and ready to elope? Is that it? Bai Wei bit her lip, saying nothing. Last Friday, the words, "Get out of here and never come back," still echoed in her ears. Do you know how hard it was carrying you for 10 months? Just to bring you into this world. You think you can just pack up and leave? Did you even ask me? Do you still see me as your mother? Tears streamed down her face. Bai Wei wasn't crying because of the scolding. It was out of heartache, the last shred of longing for her mother's tenderness, shattered completely in that moment. To preserve the last bit of dignity, she didn't want to have a full-blown fight with her mother, watching her silently weep with such grievance. I stepped forward coldly, my face hard, and stood firmly in front of her. Auntie. Bai Wei ending up where she is today? Wasn't a choice she made willingly. It's you and Uncle, who cornered her until she had nowhere left to go. I've spoken with your teachers. Don't get smart with me. I know what rich brats like you are really like. He turned to Bai Wei, his face shifting to one of deep pain. Just because he's handsome and rich, he's cut from the same cloth as your father. When they like you, they'll do anything for you. When they don't, they'll kick you to the curb. Can't you see your own mother as a warning? Sooner or later he'll turn on you and abandon you. It's not too late for you to wake up now. Hearing these vicious speculations, Bai Wei glanced at me through teary eyes. She didn't believe I could be that kind of person. What's more, we hadn't even defined our relationship yet. I took a deep breath, then gently wiped Bai Wei's tears with my sleeve. I've never bothered with empty promises like, "I'll love you for 10,000 years. That kind of check bounces. All I know is, if you love in the present, you cherish the present. Auntie, it's true, no one can guarantee the future. But I do know one thing. With Bai Wei by my side, what she gets and what she leaves behind will be happy memories. And that's enough. I don't care what sweet talk you use. I'm warning you clearly. Stay away from my daughter. And I'm warning you just as clearly. Bai Wei is an adult. She has a stable job and income. Legally, she has every right to break free from your coercive control. If you want to care for her as a mother, you're always welcome. But if all you want is to keep her as your puppet on strings, I'm sorry, I will never allow it." Li Fengji tremblingly picked up and saw the words, "monthly salary 6,000. Her pupils contracted sharply. She suddenly realized that inside her daughter's frail body hid such a resolute will to resist. Fine, so you're rich, big deal. Don't talk to me about the law. If you dare take her away, I'll bring the police to your door. Even if you call the cops, we'll still be on the winning side. But have you considered the consequences of making a scene? Xiaoyu is still young. You wouldn't want your actions to get him bullied and isolated at school, would you?" Every word struck a nerve. My words had hit Li Fengji right in her weak spot. She felt she owed her current husband too much, and absolutely could not let him and her son suffer because of her. Fine, you two get out. But you remember, when this rich boy gets tired of you, don't come crying back to me. You think you've entered a golden cage? Before long, you'll regret it. I bent down and picked up the largest piece of porcelain. The sharp edge left red marks on my palm. You're wrong. I'm not building a cage for him. I will cherish him like a canary, but I'll teach him how to grow wings and fly off into his own world. My words stirred Bai Wei deeply. Tears still clung to her lashes, and she suddenly, boldly grabbed my wrist. She followed me toward the door. All ungrateful wretches. Go on, all of you leave. Seeing her mother instantly age and look haggard, Bai Wei's face was soaked with tears, but she forced herself to speak despite the pain. Goodbye, Mom. What I wanted to say, I left on the note on the table. He pulled his suitcase and quickly walked out the door. He was afraid that if he stayed even 1 second longer, he wouldn't be able to bring himself to leave. As they went down the stairwell landing, the sensor lights flicked on one after another. Suddenly, a hoarse call came from upstairs. Ching ching. That call startled the sparrows on the windowsill into flight. Bai Wei's whole body shook violently. The suitcase wheels caught on the step. I could clearly feel her fingers instantly go rigid, like butterfly wings frozen in ice, accompanied by rapid footsteps. Li Fengji, descending too fast, stumbled and half fell down the stairs. Her forehead even hit the wall, drawing blood. Ching ching, don't go. It's Mom's fault. Mom was wrong. Mom won't scold you anymore. Hearing the name, Ching ching, Bai Wei instantly lost control. Tears burst forth. She threw herself into her mother's arms. Watching this scene, I was astonished to realize that the Li Fengji before me was a completely different person from moments ago, in expression, tone, and gestures alike. I only learned later that Li Fengji, due to severe trauma, had developed dissociative identity disorder. Only in those rare moments when Bai Wei showed extreme vulnerability would the third personality, the one who truly loved her daughter, emerge. And the name she called out, Ching Ching, was the sign that this mother had returned. I'm sorry, I still have to go. Without you here, I really can't bear it anymore. Bai Wei knew that her mother would soon change back into that volatile person, so her determination to escape only grew stronger. The reason she wanted to study psychology was to be able to heal her mother and let the mother who truly loved her stay forever. Auntie, if you truly love Bai Wei, then please trust me with her. I promise she will never suffer the slightest wrong. Mom is useless. This girl has never been one to speak her grievances. Please take good care of her and watch over her. Li Fengji hunched her back, and tightly clasped my hand and Bai Wei's together. Her hands were cold as ice, yet they burned our skin with warmth. Finally, she touched the little sun charm on Bai Wei's suitcase, and with a face full of love, waved goodbye to us. Bai Wei kept looking back every few steps, but her tears gave way to a relieved smile, completely letting down her guard. Bai Wei was as excited as a bird reborn. She held the suitcase with one hand, and tightly wrapped her other arm around me. Her whole body leaned joyfully against me. Her soft touch came through my arm. I was infected by her joy, and couldn't help smiling too. In the taxi on the way home, even the driver noticed her change, and joked she must have won the lottery. But deep down, I felt a nagging unease. Before getting in the car, I was sure I felt someone following me. What are you looking at? Nothing. I shook my head with a smile. Was it really just my imagination? I took one last look out the window, pushing the doubt aside. The bell for evening study had just rung. The classroom was thick with the smell of ink and paper, and the muffled rustle of turning pages. Bai Wei sat to my right, focused on organizing her error notebook. Since leaving that suffocating home this afternoon, she looked like a plant finally reaching sunlight. Even her hair seemed lighter, but I couldn't relax. Ever since we got out of the taxi, that cold, snake-like feeling of being watched had clung to me like a shadow. 10 years of criminal investigation instinct told me. The stalker had followed us into the school. I pretended to twirl my pen idly, but my gaze was locked on the glass reflection of the front door. The motion sensor light in the hallway stayed on, which meant someone was standing in the camera blind spot, staring at us. That direction. For the force analysis on this physics problem from Nancheng, I feel like I missed a friction force. Can you take a look? He leaned in, carrying a faint citrus scent. I took the draft paper, and in that split second, my peripheral vision caught a flash in the front door glass, a shadow in a black raincoat. The shadow quickly ducked back behind the wall. You forgot the static friction on the sole, but this problem can wait. Listen to me. For the next 5 minutes, no matter what happens, stay in your seat and don't leave the classroom. Did something happen? Where are you going? Don't be afraid. I'm going to catch the debt collector who's been following us. Remember, you're safest here with all the people around. Wait for me to come back. Not giving Bai Wei a chance to ask more, I stood up abruptly, pushed my chair back, and strode out of the classroom through the back door. The moment I stepped into the hallway, the warmth on my face vanished. In its place was the cold, fierce aura that once made serial killers tremble, the signature of the former criminal police captain. I deliberately made my footsteps heavy, heading toward the most secluded end of the corridor, the direction of the old lab building. The lights there were dim, and the cameras had been broken for a while. If the stalker wanted to make a move, that would be the perfect hunting ground. Sure enough, when I stepped into the cold connecting corridor to the lab, I heard footsteps behind me, very light, deliberately muffled. The sound of rubber soles scraping the terrazzo floor. In the empty corridor, the noise was amplified. I smirked coldly. The prey had taken the bait. I shoved open the wooden door of the old chemistry lab, ducked behind it into the blind spot, and held my breath. 10 seconds later, the door was pushed open slowly by a rough hand. A beam from a flashlight probed inside. Now, I lunged from behind the door like a leopard, my left hand forming a claw, grabbing the wrist holding the flashlight. I squeezed hard, twisting it outward sharply. With a pained grunt, the flashlight hit the floor. Without a pause, my right hand clamped onto the back of his head. Using the momentum of his forward lean, I drove my knee into his stomach. The close quarters takedown was clean. A total mismatch. The stalker lost all ability to resist, collapsing to the floor in pain. I stepped on his chest, pinning him to the ground. Then I bent down to pick up the flashlight and shine the beam directly into his face. When I saw the face twisted in pain, my pupils contracted. Li Gang, lying there, was Bai Wei's stepfather, the man who, during the rainstorm last Friday night, had taken a knife to the abdomen, protecting his crazed wife. Right now, his wound clearly hadn't healed, sweat beading on his forehead from pain, but he still stared at me, with bloodshot eyes, and from his raincoat pocket, a sharp knife had fallen out. Auntie is still in the hospital recovering. You should be resting by her bedside. Not out here with an unhealed stab wound. Dressed like that, following me to school. What do you think you're doing? Why do you have to protect her so much? This afternoon after you left, Fengxi completely broke down at the hospital. She kept banging her head against the bed rail. If the doctor hadn't intervened in time and given her a sedative, she wouldn't have made it. As long as Bai Wei stays in Xinhai City, Fengxi will never get better. She has to disappear from Xinhai completely. I want her dead. Seeing Li Gang's deranged look, the broken puzzle pieces from my past life started reassembling frantically. In that past life, on that rainstorm night, the killer in the raincoat who perfectly avoided all cameras and brutally murdered Bai Wei in the dead-end alley. Could it be that he wasn't some random thug, but this man right here, the stepfather driven mad by love for his wife? Had he, that night, also ignored his injury, sneaked out of the hospital, followed Bai Wei and killed her? I made a quick decision. Without a word, I dialed the police directly. On charges of carrying a weapon, stalking, and attempted assault, I sent Li Gang into the police car. But as the squad car sped away, a tense string in my heart refused to loosen. Early the next morning, I made an excuse to take half a day off, using my father's connections in the city government, and under the pretense of verifying a family member's injury, I entered the city hospital's security room. Without solid proof that he was the killer, I couldn't jump to conclusions. After all, in my past life, during the investigation, his motive was ruled out first, and he had a solid alibi. I had to see for myself what Li Gang was doing on that rainstorm night last Friday. Sir, could you pull up the surveillance from 8 to 10 p.m. last Friday in the emergency surgery hallway? The screen flickered and jumped. 8:15 p.m. Li Gang, covered in blood, was wheeled into the OR. 8:40. The surgery light stayed red. Several nurses came in and out, carrying blood bags. 9:20. Li Gang was wheeled out of surgery. Tubes inserted, taken to the ICU. Until 11 p.m. No one entered or left the ICU doors. A critically injured person couldn't have jumped from the third-floor balcony. My mind felt struck by lightning. My hands and feet went ice cold. The forensic estimate of Bai Wei's time of death in her past life was around 10:30 that night. An ironclad alibi. On that rainstorm night in my past life, Li Gang was lying on the operating table. There's no way he could have been in that alley killing Bai Wei. If the killer wasn't the stepfather, Li Gang, then who was it? Walking out of the hospital gate, the midday sun was so bright I could barely open my eyes. Li Gang's perfect alibi, pressed down on my chest like a boulder. Who was the killer hiding in that rainstorm from my past life? This unknown, enemy hidden, I exposed, terrified me far more than facing a demon directly. I pushed open the door to my home. The house was silent. The air carried a faint scent of body wash. I tiptoed into the guest bedroom. The faint scent of body wash lingered in the air. I tiptoed into the guest bedroom. Bai Wei was curled up under the covers, taking a nap. She was sleeping restlessly. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly. Her hand instinctively clutched the corner of the blanket. Looking at her peaceful yet fragile sleeping face, most of the hostility in my heart dissipated. I walked over. I wanted to help cover her with the thin blanket that had slipped off. But just as I looked up, my gaze swept over the guest bedroom window. My movements abruptly froze. The afternoon sun slanted against the glass. On the outside of the window, there was clearly a faint, obviously dust-covered fingerprint. Every hair on my body instantly stood on end. I held my breath, immediately turned and pushed open the door, went around to the green belt outside the house. Sure enough, at the edge of the lawn outside the guest bedroom window, several green plants were trampled and crooked, a string of messy footprints pressed into the soil. The direction of the footprints was straight, pointing toward this window where Bai Wei was napping. My heart rate suddenly accelerated. That person was standing right here just now, even pressed his hand against the glass. Through this thin layer of glass, he was peeping intently at the sleeping. A sense of crisis flooded over me like a tide. He actually followed us here. Although the neighborhood has security, it can't stop a determined lurking threat. I absolutely cannot wait to be caught. In the afternoon, I went directly to the electronics market, bought 3 big boxes of top-tier equipment, night vision infrared HD cameras, windowsill vibration sensor alarms. I personally carried the A-frame ladder, going in and out around the house and living room, running cables through. Bai Wei was woken by the noise. Wearing loose loungewear, rubbing her sleepy eyes, she came out of the room. What are you doing? Why did you buy so many cameras? I have a bit of paranoia. The first floor is convenient, but installing a few more to guard against thieves is always good. Come help me steady the ladder. Are you afraid I'm not safe alone at home? Humph. You know it, why ask? While installing the camera in the corner of the living room ceiling, I needed a high support point. Bai Wei stood on tiptoes, trying hard to hand me the cable. Because the movement was too large, she revealed her delicate collarbone and a patch of fair skin. I, looking down from above, my gaze accidentally swept over. Instantly felt my throat go dry. Okay, hold steady, I'll come down right away. As I came down the ladder, I inadvertently glanced again. Bai Wei noticed my gaze. Instantly her face turned bright red. She let out a startled cry and let go of the ladder. I lost my balance and fell straight down. Bai Wei quickly opened her arms to catch me. I deliberately tilted, pressing half my body weight onto her, directly pulling her into my arms. Be careful, did you sprain your ankle? The ankle didn't sprain, but I was startled just now. My legs are a bit weak now. Miss Babysitter, you failed in your duty to protect me. You'll have to take responsibility. Who told you to act so cheeky? Although she said that, her slender little hands hesitated for a moment, then finally gently rested on my lower back, returning my embrace. The warmth and fragrance in my arms made my agitated and tense nerves today temporarily calm down. After dinner, I sat on the sofa, adjusting the split-screen monitor display on the computer. Bai Wei washed a plate of fresh strawberries, sat obediently beside me, picked up the biggest one with a toothpick and brought it to my lips. I turned my head to look at the screen. The lawn outside the window, every blind spot around, every possible point of intrusion, were all covered without blind spots by the HD cameras. As long as that ghostly figure who left footprints dares to show up again, I will make sure he can't escape even with wings. Bai Wei, from now on when you're at home, except when I open the door with the key, don't open for anyone knocking. Remember, anyone. I remember. The afternoon sun made the asphalt road slightly hot. Bai Wei walked beside me with her backpack, her ponytail swinging with each step. Ever since moving into my apartment, breaking away from that oppressive home, she even walks much lighter. Every now and then she leaned over to share with me the wrong questions she reviewed today, but I couldn't relax at all. That stabbing sensation of being watched, following like a shadow, from the moment we stepped out of the neighborhood gate, had been biting the back of my neck relentlessly. Move inward a bit. There are many cars outside. Goo, what's wrong with you? Your palms are all sweaty. It's nothing. I was fussing with those cameras at noon. Didn't rest well. Let's hurry. First period this afternoon is the homeroom teacher's class. Late means getting scolded. On the surface I looked calm, but my peripheral vision quickly swept over the shops and green belts along the street. No one in the blind spots. But that sticky feeling of being watched by a venomous snake absolutely couldn't be wrong. Just as we entered the school gate, Zhang Yan's signature loud voice came from the shadow of the teaching building. He jogged all the way to me, face flushed, excitedly speaking incoherently. Goo, holy shit. You're amazing. The lead you gave about the wanted criminal. It turns out to be real. The police station is in an uproar. They say that bastard is the one who fled across 3 provinces. A ruthless guy with several lives on his hands. Did they catch him? Mentioning this, Jiang Yan's originally excited face immediately fell halfway. That place is really creepy. The cops directly locked down the entire old town. Layers upon layers, surrounded so tightly not a drop could leak through. We couldn't even get close. But that guy vanished like he disappeared from the face of the earth. I heard his counter-surveillance skills are extremely strong. Minutes before the encirclement tightened, he actually jumped into a stinking ditch and escaped through the sewer. My heart dropped. Jiang Yan's words were like a cold scalpel, instantly stripping away all my wishful thinking. The murderer from the serial killings in my past life, although not directly related to Bai Wei's death, was a killer who didn't blink, an extremely cunning madman. Since he could escape the police's tight encirclement, it means he's lurking in the shadows of this city, like a startled beast. I remembered this afternoon outside my window glass. That faint dusty handprint, and that messy string of footprints on the lawn. Since the real culprit from the rainy night in my past life hasn't surfaced yet, then the one who crawled to my window to peep at noon, could it be this desperate murderer? Was he, or not, while evading the manhunt, did he randomly pick my house, which looks like a rich person's place, as a hiding spot, or to take revenge on the informant? Is he secretly casing the place? Listen up. Over the next period, except for school and the hospital, don't go anywhere else. What's wrong, Goo? I got a bonus. Was planning to treat you to some skewers. That expression on your face. That wanted criminal isn't just a murderer. He's a madman with no limits. You provided the lead and took the money. Once he gets wind of it, knows it was you who called the police. The first ones he'll retaliate against are you and your mom. No, it can't be that bad. I'm at least from around here. The lives he's taken are more than the blood you've seen. Don't talk nonsense with me. After school, go straight to the hospital and stay with Auntie. Lock the hospital room door. Don't come out even if the King of Heaven calls you. You understand? Yes, I understand. Honey, don't scare me. I don't care about my worthless life. But my mom can't take a shock. Sent Jiang Yan packing. I stood in the shadow of the corridor, watching Bai Wei quietly reading in the classroom. A chill ran down my spine. Li Gang's suspicion had been cleared, and the true killer of the rainy night was still hiding in the shadows. Now, there's another serial murderer on the run. 2 unknown killing intents intertwined, surrounding us completely. I touched the phone in my pocket. The surveillance program for my home running silently on it. No matter whose footprints are outside the window. If you dare to come, I'll make you pay. After evening self-study ended, I walked home side by side with Bai Wei. Though the night breeze was cool, she seemed to enjoy the sense of safety that came with having company. She chattered away the whole way, telling me funny stories from class. Once home, Bai Wei took the initiative to put on an apron and went into the kitchen. Soon, 2 steaming bowls of tomato egg noodles and a few small dishes were placed on the table. Nancheng, try it quick. Today I added the fried egg you love. I deliberately made the edges a bit crispy. As long as you made it, even if it's poison, I'll eat every last bite. You're talking nonsense again. Just eat. The warm yellow dining room light fell on her slightly flushed cheek, coating her in a soft, fuzzy glow. I ate the noodles in large mouthfuls, enjoying this stolen moment of peace. After dinner, Bai Wei went to the bathroom to shower. The sound of rushing water filled the air. I leaned back on the sofa, pulled out my phone, and switched to the surveillance system I had set up in the yard today. On the screen, the night vision infrared illuminated every green strip around the house with perfect clarity. I casually scrolled through the evening recording. Suddenly, my gaze froze. At around 6 in the afternoon, before we had returned home, a strange man in a cap had paced back and forth in the green belt outside my yard. For a full 10 minutes, he even leaned in and peered through the window several times. I immediately zoomed in on the image, trying to make out his features. This guy was a bit overweight, with drooping eye corners. In my mind, I rapidly pulled up the wanted poster the police had released for that fugitive. Not him. That fugitive was a thin man with very prominent cheekbones. Not that escapee. So which rat crawled out from where? Could it be that the real killer from my past life, hidden in the shadows, was casing the place? This feeling of being watched while being blind infuriated me. A serial murderer on the run. The unknown rainy night killer from my past life. And now a stranger wandering around in broad daylight. I felt like I was trapped in a huge black vortex. At its very center, the clock struck 1 a.m. The entire neighborhood fell into a dead silence. I lay on the bed in the master bedroom. Though my eyes were closed, my nerves remained taut with the alertness I'd had as a detective in my past life. Suddenly, a faint click came from outside the house, followed by the extremely soft sound of footsteps, deliberately landing on heels, slowly approaching the living room's French window. I instantly opened my eyes, like a waking leopard, rolling out of bed without a sound. My feet hit the floor, without making any noise, pressing against the wall. I inched my way to the blind spot in the shadow by the living room window. By the faint moonlight, through the gap in the curtains, I vaguely saw a thin, dark figure, sneakily pressed against the outer wall of my house. The figure's hands seemed to be groping along the windowsill, even trying to gently push the window. Every muscle in my body was coiled to the max. If he made any wrong move, I'd rush out and disable him in an instant. But I held back, not wanting to scare him off. I wanted to see what he was really up to, and whether he had an accomplice. Time ticked by. The dark figure paused outside the window for about 2 or 3 minutes, seeming to realize the window was locked from inside, or perhaps sensing some danger. He suddenly stopped moving, turned around, and quickly disappeared into the depths of the neighborhood's greenery. My instinct told me to yank the door open and chase him, but the moment my hand touched the door handle, my motion froze. I glanced back at the closed guest bedroom door. Bai Wei was still sound asleep in there. Compared to catching that rat, Bai Wei's absolute safety came first. I suppressed the murderous intent in my heart, turned and walked to the coffee table, quickly opened the surveillance computer, and pulled up the infrared replay from that angle. The footage began to rewind. The dark figure appeared on the screen. This top-tier security equipment had extremely high resolution. Even the wrinkles on his clothes were captured clearly. I stared at the screen intently, dragging the progress bar to the moment when the dark figure turned to leave. Just as he spun around sharply, the infrared camera captured his face perfectly. The instant I saw that face, my pupils contracted violently. My brain buzzed, as if someone had hit me over the head with a club. That face, always hidden behind heavy bangs, with a look of cowardice and isolation. UCI. How could it be him? The class's well-known punching bag. The boy always bullied by the thugs. Why would he be lurking outside my window, like a ghost in the dead of night? The blue light of the computer screen cast onto my face. I didn't turn on the light, sitting alone in the dark on the sofa, tapping my knee unconsciously. My brain worked like a high-speed computer, frantically sorting through this seemingly chaotic puzzle. The strange fat man in the daytime, UCI at night, and on the guest bedroom window, that faint, dusty handprint. What connection lay hidden among these three? If the handprint was left by the daytime fat man, why did he only pace in the green belt without making any further move? Who sent him? I took a deep breath, putting the fat man's clue aside for now. My eyes fixed on the screen, on Yi-Si's frozen face. Compared to that unknown fat man, Yi-Si's appearance sent a deeper chill down my spine. A student at school known for being withdrawn and submissive. A pushover who wouldn't even fight back when thugs demanded money. Why was he showing such skilled stalking techniques at 1 a.m., appearing like a ghost outside my window? Once my detective instincts were triggered, the overlooked details from my past life flooded into my mind like a tide. I remembered that rainy night from before. That evening, UCI had also been near the crime scene. He was cornered in a dead-end alley by those thugs and beaten. And Bai Wei, because she saw that scene while leaving the convenience store, walked toward that fatal alley. In my past life, I always thought UCI was just an unfortunate victim who happened to be there. But now, that victim was sneaking around my window in the dead of night. Could it be that in my past life, the one who snatched Bai Wei's fruit knife in the rain and brutally killed her was UCI? The moment that thought surfaced, my sharp investigative logic immediately began to review it. I closed my eyes, frantically recalling what happened after Bai Wei's death in my past life. The whole school was in shock. Police came every day to take statements. Every student was terrified. But what about UCI? In the days after Bai Wei's death in his past life, UCI still sat in the corner like a ghost. He showed no panic whatsoever, not even the slightest flicker of emotion. His calm was like dead water, stagnant and lifeless. No, I know criminal psychology too well. Facing a swarm of police and investigations, there's no way he could have been that watertight. Behind that fake calm lies an terrifyingly strong psychological core, an unfathomable depth. A kid who trembles when thugs yell at him. How could he possibly possess the psychological makeup of a cold-blooded killer? If he really was that calculating, then the weak, bullied act he put on at school was all a front. It was all an act. He's like a venomous snake draped in sheep's clothing, lying low beside everyone, watching it all coldly. The clock on the wall ticked second by second. A chill of dread ran through me. If UCI really was that cold-blooded butcher in the past life, then his appearance tonight means, has he already locked onto Bai Wei and me in this life? As prey. Playing tricks. No matter if you're a man or a ghost under that mask. I'll tear it off. I stood up, walked to the guest bedroom door, checked quietly. The door was locked from inside. Listening to Bai Wei's steady breathing through the door, I clenched my fists hard. This ticking time bomb is right in the same class. I can't just leave it alone. I've made up my mind. Tomorrow, I'll go to school. I have to find Yi-Si, rip off that harmless mask of hers, get to the bottom of the rainstorm night and tonight's truth. The first light of morning filtered through the balcony screen, scattering warm specks of gold on the wooden floor. I pushed open the bedroom door. The sizzle of frying bacon came from the kitchen, mixed with the toasty smell of bread. Bai Wei wore a plain white hoodie, standing on tiptoes, busy at the counter. Golden morning light outlined her slender, gentle silhouette. The scene was so beautiful, it almost made you forget last night's horror. You're awake. Go wash up. Sandwich is almost ready. Today I added extra cheese, just how you like it. So domestic. Whoever marries you will be the luckiest guy alive. Making fun of me first thing in the morning. Go wash your face. After washing up, I sat at the table. I watched her take small bites of the sandwich, a dab of white mayo clinging to the corner of her mouth. I didn't say anything. Instead, I reached out and gently wiped the sauce from her lip with my thumb. Eating like a little kitten. I can do it myself. This brief warmth felt like the last calm before the storm. I swallowed the last gulp of milk, burying the shadows from last night's footage deep in my eyes. No matter how many monsters lurk outside, in this home, I only want to give her absolute sunshine. After breakfast, Bai Wei and I walked side by side down the tree-lined path to school. It was rush hour. The street was packed with traffic. Students in uniforms and office workers hurrying to work. Rushed past. But just as we crossed an intersection, that familiar, nauseating feeling, like a snake flicking its tongue, sank its fangs into the back of my neck again. Every muscle in my body tensed instantly. The sensation was too clear, hidden among the crowd flowing around us. A pair of extremely cold eyes were fixed on Bai Wei and me from behind. Bai Wei, your backpack strap looks loose. Let me fix it for you. Using the motion of adjusting her bag, my eyes swept like radar over the reflection in the newsstand mirror on the corner, the blind spot behind the bus stop sign, even the windows of parked cars across the street. Too many people. Line of sight tangled and chaotic. I couldn't immediately drag that rat out of the shadows, but I knew it was close. Thanks, Nancheng. It feels much better now. Let's go. Class is about to start. With that sense of being watched clinging to us like a shadow, we finally stepped into the classroom, already roaring with morning reading. I told Bai Wei to go to her seat first. I stood at the back door of the classroom, my eyes sharp as blades, immediately locking onto the last row, the desk that always stayed in shadow. My heart plummeted. The seat was empty. The desktop was spotless. Not even a single book. Old Goo, what you staring at? Oh, you mean that quiet guy UCI? He didn't come today. Heard he asked the homeroom teacher for sick leave first thing in the morning. Said he had a high fever and couldn't get out of bed. Jiang Yin said it casually, but it set off a tsunami in my mind. You said he's on leave? Didn't come? Why ya? Old Goo, why are you so worked up? He gets beaten up every few days anyway. Taking leave is normal, isn't it? I let go of Jiang Yin, walked slowly back to my seat. Cold sweat had already beaded in my palms. At 1 a.m., he appeared like a ghost outside my window. Conducted an extremely professional stakeout. This morning, on the way to school, we felt that intense, clinging sensation of being watched. And now he happens to be out sick with a high fever? All the clues collided in a terrifying crash at this moment. If he's not at school, then where is he right now? The answer was almost screaming to be spoken. The person who stared at us on the road this morning. The one hiding in the shadows now, following us like a venomous snake. 100%, he is Yeezy. In the past life, that unknown true culprit who, on the rainstorm night, took the fruit knife Bai Wei had for self-defense, sneaked to my window tonight, stalked us on the road this morning, in my reasoning, finally overlapped into a face with thick bangs, pale and timid. Yeezy. What secret is he hiding? As soon as the bell rang, I took Bai Wei to the address listed in the class contact list for Yeezy's home. It was a very ordinary residential complex. A bit old, but the environment was fairly clean. We went up to the 3rd floor. I knocked on the security door. No answer. Just as I was wondering, the neighbor aunt across the hall came out carrying a trash bag. Stop knocking. Looking for the Yi family? They left early this morning, before dawn even broke. Took all their bags and boxes and moved out. Said there was an urgent matter with relatives in the countryside. Even gave up the apartment. Ma'am, you said they moved out before dawn? Yeah, around 5-something. The moving truck made a huge racket. I was annoyed by the noise. Bang. The auntie's words hit me like a bucket of ice water, pouring down over my head. Moved out before dawn. Then that intense, clinging, cold gaze I felt. This morning on the way to school with Bai Wei. Who is it? My mind raced. In an instant, cold sweat soaked my back. If the person stalking us this morning wasn't Yeezy at all, that means, besides Yeezy, who crept to my window last night, there's another pair of eyes, in broad daylight, fixed on me. The strange fat man from that day? The fugitive serial killer? Or the true rainstorm night murderer from the past life? I suppressed the shock and unease, took Bai Wei's hand, and decided to take her home first, to figure things out. When we arrived at the door of our home, we found an uninvited guest standing in the hallway. It was a man in a bespoke suit, a middle-aged man with his hair meticulously combed, his brows tightly furrowed, pacing back and forth with a grim expression, radiating an air of authority and suppressed rage. When I saw the face of the person approaching, Bai Wei beside me stiffened all over, instinctively clutching my hand tighter. Dad. You still remember I'm your father? Bai Chengfeng stormed over and yanked Bai Wei away from my side. Bai Wei, do you even know what you're doing? Your mother is still lying in the hospital right now, delirious from illness, and you have the heart to abandon her? Not only that, you're a girl. At such a young age, you run off to live with a boy. What do you take your reputation for? Facing her father's relentless scolding, Bai Wei's eyes instantly reddened. But this time she didn't back down. Instead, she forcefully broke free from Bai Chengfeng's grip. What right do you have to lecture me? You were the one who abandoned Mom first. If it weren't for you, she would never have ended up like this. What do you know about adult matters? Did I ever skimp on the child support money? Now that your mother is sick, you run away, pack your things, and come back to the Bai family immediately. I won't allow my daughter to be so indecent outside. I'm not going. I don't want anything to do with you, and I especially don't want to set foot in the Bai family home. I'll find a way to take care of Mom's illness. I don't need your help. Bai Chengfeng was furious. He reached out, forcing Bai Wei's arm. I stepped forward directly, like a wall, standing firmly in front of Bai Wei, meeting Bai Chengfeng's gaze coldly. Mr. Bai Wei has made herself clear. She doesn't want to go with you. Forcing her like this isn't exactly dignified, is it? Gu Nancheng. Don't think just because the Gu family has some influence in Xinhai City, you can kidnap my daughter. This is a family matter of the Bai family. He looked at Bai Wei, who was firmly shielded behind me, then looked at my icy, murderous gaze, weighing his options. He forcibly restrained the impulse to snatch her away. Gu Nancheng, you listen to me. If you dare let her suffer the slightest grievance, the Bai family will stake everything. We will never let you off. After saying that, Bai Chengfeng shot, by way of vicious glare, accompanied by heavy footsteps. Bai Chengfeng, filled with anger and helplessness, strode off in a huff, disappearing at the end of the corridor. Watching Bai Chengfeng vanish down the hallway, I took Bai Wei back inside, locking the security door behind us. Bai Wei was still a bit down. She silently went to the kitchen to pour water, while I sat on the sofa, my frown deepening. Bai Chengfeng's heart-wrenching, father who would die to protect his daughter act, stirred up in me an intense sense of dissonance. Something was off. Back then he could abandon his wife and daughter, without a word for over a decade. He didn't even show up when Li Fengji went mad. So why would he suddenly show up at my doorstep today? Putting on this act of caring about his daughter's well-being, I pushed aside my doubts, and casually opened the computer screen connected to the surveillance cameras. The moment the image lit up, my pupils contracted sharply. It was that fat guy, the one who appeared in the surveillance footage last night. That slightly pudgy man with droopy eyes. Right now, he had appeared again beside the green belt outside my building, hiding behind a utility pole, sneaking peeks at my apartment window. Heaven has a road you refuse to take. Since you're delivering yourself to my door, today I'm going to skin you alive. I immediately pulled out my phone and dialed Jiang Yan. His place wasn't far. Jiang Yan, bring your gear to the bottom of my building. Someone's tailing me. We'll pincer him. Don't let him get away. 5 minutes later, Jiang Yan, panting, made it to the other end of the alley. I signaled to him, like two pairs of pliers. We lunged at the fatty from left and right. Ah shit. He tried to run, but Jiang Yan blocked his escape route. I closed in from behind and kicked him in the back of the knee. The fat guy screamed and dropped to his knees. I twisted his arm behind his back, pressing his face hard against the rough wall. You've been following us for 2 days. Talk. Who sent you? Ow, ow, ow. Big brother, spare me. It's breaking. It's breaking. I didn't do anything. Didn't do anything? Then what were you hanging around here for? Tell the truth, or I'll smash every tooth in your mouth today. I'll talk. 3 days ago, a woman in a mask came to me. What did she want you to do? Kill someone or kidnap? Was it you following us on the road this morning? No, big brother. I wouldn't dare do anything illegal. The employer just sent your photos and address. Told me to watch you every day. Record what time you leave, what time you come back. Whether there are any other adults at home. I swear, I never followed you on the road. I just stayed at the entrance of this compound, recording the times. What did he look like? Who he is? I really don't know. After he paid me, he never showed up again. Didn't even leave a contact. Big brother, I'm just trying to make a living. I'll return the deposit. Please let me go. I stared hard into the fat guy's eyes. 10 years of criminal investigation experience told me. He wasn't lying. He really was just a low-level pawn. The lead was severed again. I let go, letting the fat guy scramble out of the alley. Jiang Yan cursed next to me, but I felt an unprecedented sense of defeat and exhaustion. The stalker that had shadowed us on the road this morning wasn't this fat guy, nor was it Yi Zi, who had moved away overnight. The real killer was still like an invisible ghost, hiding himself flawlessly, and the person who hired the fat guy was just trying to figure out our daily routine. This meant the other side was planning an extremely meticulous operation. After sending Jiang Yan away, I returned, alone to the apartment. Bai Wei had already gone to sleep. I collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted, rubbing my aching temples. I looked up at the split-screen surveillance on the wall. First floor entrance, window ledge, main road outside. Everything looked normal. Wait, my eyes suddenly locked onto screen number 2. That was the camera installed diagonally above the front door. An infrared camera covering the blind spot in the hallway. When I installed and adjusted it yesterday, the bottom right corner of the frame clearly showed the red metal cabinet of the fire hydrant. But now, the frame had shifted left by about 15 degrees. The fire hydrant had completely disappeared from view, replaced by the edge of the door frame, a huge visual blind spot. The blood in my veins froze solid in that instant. Someone had tampered with my camera. There's no way that was caused by wind. The camera was screwed tightly into the wall. Just now, Jiang Yan and I went downstairs to catch that fat guy. We were gone for no more than 10 minutes. In those short 10 minutes, someone had silently crept to my front door, expertly avoided the front-facing lens, forcibly twisted the camera angle, deliberately creating a surveillance blind spot. That creeping, shadowy true demon had been right outside my door just moments ago. I sat alone on the living room sofa, staring at the screen, the camera that had been twisted out of its blind spot. My brain raced through everything that happened today. The strange fat man during the day, the dusty handprint outside the second-floor window, the sneaky shadow late at night, and now this silent figure, who twisted the camera. All the actions connected in my mind. The one I suspected most was still that deeply contradictory Yi Zi. Just as I furrowed my brow, trying to figure out a motive, bang, 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 the security door suddenly was pounded on. I opened the door warily. Standing outside was Jiang Yan, who had just left. What are you doing back? Hey. Old Gu, I just remembered. Yi Zi asked me to return these 2 things to you this morning. Hey. What things? He told me to give these back to you. He also specifically asked me to pass on a message. He said he actually came to your place last night, wanted to return them to you in person, and thank you for always helping him. But it was too late last night, and he didn't want to disturb your rest. So he stood outside for a while, and then left. Hearing Jiang Yan's words, my head buzzed. Yi Zi showing up outside the window at 1 a.m. was really just to return things? It was also true that his whole family had moved away. He definitely wasn't following me on the road, and he certainly didn't have time to twist my camera. At this moment, Yi Si's suspicion was completely eliminated, once and for all. My only lead had snapped again. I slumped back onto the sofa, defeated, my mind sinking into extreme confusion and frustration. If it wasn't Yi Si, then who twisted the camera? Who else is out there watching us like hawks? Just as I was at my wit's end, Jiang Yin beside me suddenly pulled out his phone, scrolled to a photo, and held it in front of me. Oh, by the way, old goo, I've been meaning to ask you, this guy in the photo, is he a bodyguard your family hired to watch you on the sly? Because I noticed he's always hanging around near you. When I caught that fat guy in the alley just now, I saw him wandering outside your complex again. I jerked my head up, took the phone. The photo was a surreptitious shot in the dim light of a street corner. It showed a man in a baseball cap. Only a side view from behind was visible. I stared at that back view photo on Jiang Yan's phone. Didn't hesitate for a second. I immediately took out my own phone, saved a copy of the photo, and sent it straight to my mom. Then I called her. Hello? Mom. Is the person in this photo someone you arranged? There was a 2-second silence on the other end. Then my mom's voice came through, extremely surprised. Son, you actually discovered him? That's a retired mercenary your father hired at a high price. Since you're living alone outside, we really weren't comfortable. So we hired him specially, to keep you safe without you knowing. He's been tailing you for a while now, and you actually caught him out. Hearing those 5 words, retired mercenary, my tense nerves gave a sharp jump. He's only supposed to check around you, for any danger. He won't spy on your life. If it makes you uncomfortable, Dad and Mom can have him withdrawn. No, that's not necessary. I just found unusual footprints outside the window of the guest room where Bai Wei is staying. That's why I thought there was danger. But if he's monitoring my safety, why would he need to go to the guest room window? Didn't you say before Bai Wei would be staying in our guest room? So I thought I'd have him take a look. Check if the guest room window was secure, and whether the security bars were safe. Mom, send me his contact information. I hung up. Soon, a phone number was sent to my phone. Damn, he really is a bodyguard your family hired? And a mercenary at that. Old goo, your family's security level is insane. I ignored Jiang Yan's exclamation. My eyes were fixed on that string of numbers on the screen, my brain working at full speed. A retired mercenary. If that's true, then all those incredibly bizarre phenomena now had the most reasonable explanation. The dusty handprint outside the window and the recently moved surveillance camera were most likely left by this mercenary while he was doing a perimeter security check or deliberately avoiding my counter-surveillance equipment. Traces left behind. The clues seemed to close back up at that moment. The trails I had almost grasped now seemed to vanish completely. I had to contact this mercenary immediately, confirm the handprint on the window and the moved camera. I took a deep breath and dialed the number my mom had sent. The phone rang only once before it was answered. Hello, young master. Uncle Dao, right? The handprint on the guest bedroom window and the moved surveillance camera at the door. Was that you? Haha, young master. Your counter-surveillance skills are incredible. I'd say your alertness is better than some of the raw recruits I've trained. Young master, when I was checking the surroundings for safety hazards this afternoon, I found all the screws on your guest room security bars were rusted and loose. A little force and they'd pop right open. So I replaced them all with high-strength titanium alloy screws. I even aged them on purpose and painted them with a bit of dust. I didn't expect the dust on my gloves would leave a mark on the glass. As for the camera by the door, your original angle was fine for burglary prevention. But for anti-burglary purposes, there was a 1-second blind spot on the side. So I adjusted it for you. Okay, I understand. Thank you for your hard work, Uncle Dao. After hanging up, I tiptoed into the guest bedroom. Bai Wei was sound asleep, breathing evenly. I walked to the window, and by the faint light outside, carefully inspected the edge of the security bars. Sure enough, those screws that looked rusted had all been replaced with extremely sturdy new material, only with a very good surface disguise. I let out a long sigh of relief. No perverted stalker, no professional killer. All those terrifying, ghostly occurrences were actually the family's top-notch bodyguard, eliminating safety risks. But once that last bit of tension was released, what followed was a crushing wave of exhaustion and confusion, enough to drown a person. I sat on the living room sofa, staring at the empty room. That fat guy who was paid to do a job, leg gone. ECI moved away. Suspicion completely cleared. Li Gang had a perfect alibi. The serial killer on the run had nothing to do with the murder in the past life either. All leads were cut off. The true killer from that rainstorm night in the past life, who cruelly snatched Bai Wei's fruit knife and stabbed her to death, still remained a ghost without even a silhouette. Perfectly hidden among the vast crowd. That powerless feeling of punching cotton, combined with the extreme tension of the past 2 days, and the chill from getting soaked in the rain last night, finally, at this moment, completely broke down my body's defenses. My vision started to blur. Everything around me spun. My stomach churned. My throat burned like fire. I forced myself to stand up and get a glass of water, but my legs gave way, and I collapsed heavily onto the sofa, completely losing consciousness. I felt like I was falling into a scorching fire. That bloody rainstorm night from the past life, and Bai Wei's deathly pale face, tangled and tore at each other in the dream. Nancheng. Nancheng, wake up. In a daze, a soft, anxious voice echoed repeatedly in my ear. Suddenly, a cool, comfortable sensation came to my forehead, barely suppressing the flames raging inside my body. I struggled to open my heavy eyelids. After my vision focused, what I saw was Bai Wei's face, covered with worry, even with a hint of paleness on her small face. Nancheng, you're finally awake. You scared me to death. How did you get such a high fever? I opened my mouth, but found my throat so hoarse I couldn't make a sound. I wanted to sit up, but found myself lying in the master bedroom bed, covered with a thick blanket, and a cold towel was placed on my forehead. I'm fine, maybe I caught a chill last night. Caught a chill? 39.8 degrees. I got up this morning and saw you collapsed on the sofa. No matter how I called, I couldn't wake you. You were frighteningly hot. First, drink some water to moisten your throat. I've already asked the class teacher for leave. We'll rest at home today. Warm water slid down my parched throat, bringing a trace of life. I watched her bustling about. Her eyes were bloodshot. Clearly, after finding me with a fever, she had been staying by the bedside, without leaving for a moment. Take the fever reducer. She fed the fever reducer into my mouth. If the fever doesn't go down by afternoon, we'll go to the hospital for N4. Then she wrapped both hands tightly around my palm. Nancheng, don't be afraid, even though I don't know what exactly you're worried about. Now it's my turn to take care of you. You get a good sleep. I'm not going anywhere. I'll stay right here and watch over you. Looking at her determined eyes, feeling the warmth of her palm, my nerves, which had been tensed to the point of breaking, finally found true relaxation at this moment. Under the hypnotic effect of the medicine and fever, I closed my eyes again and fell into a deep sleep. In my dream, I suddenly returned to my past life. A colleague greeted me warmly. Old Goo. The case you've been concerned about has found a breakthrough. It's someone familiar. We caught him. Go take a look. I hurriedly asked who. A flash of white light. I suddenly woke up. When I woke up again, the sky outside had already darkened. The afterglow of the setting sun filtered through the half-drawn curtains, spilling a warm orange-red glow on the sheets. I felt that the soreness in my body had lessened a lot. The burning heat on my forehead had also subsided. I turned my head slightly, and immediately saw Bai Wei asleep, leaning against the edge of the bed. She seemed extremely tired, with faint dark circles under her eyes. In her hand, she was still tightly gripping the ice towel she used to cool me down physically. As if sensing the change in my breathing, she woke up instantly like a startled fawn. Great, the fever has finally gone down. Nancheng, are you hungry? There's plain congee warming in the pot. I'll go get it for you. Don't bother, stay with me for a while. I held her hand tightly, feeling the real warmth from her palm. My fingertip greedily caressed the pulse beating on her wrist, looking at the lively and beautiful her before me. A kind of unprecedented, extremely intense feeling of panic suddenly, like a venomous snake, coiled around my heart. This was the first time since my rebirth that I felt so afraid. I was afraid that this was just a big dream. Afraid that once I found the real killer and completely changed her doomed fate. After completing the entire loop, this rebirth that broke the laws of time would end. Would I suddenly be pulled back to that cold, original timeline where only her tombstone existed? Selfishly, I wanted time to stay forever at this moment. As long as I didn't investigate. As long as I hid her. In this safe house protected by surveillance. Could we go on like this forever, living peacefully? But, looking at the unreserved trust in her eyes, I clenched my teeth fiercely. Nancheng, what's wrong? Are you dizzy again? It's nothing. Just my mind is a bit clearer. I'm a little hungry. Okay, you lean back. Don't move, I'll go bring it over. After eating, you still need to take your temperature. Watching Bai Wei obediently walk out of the bedroom. The moment she closed the door behind her, the gentleness on my face instantly faded, replaced by extreme coldness and urgency. I gripped my phone tightly, my knuckles turning white from the force. My mind split open like a lightning strike. Uncle Dao, the retired mercenary. Since my mom said, Uncle Dao has been secretly protecting me for a while. Then on that rainstorm night last Friday, he must have been around me too. That night, Bai Wei came to knock on my door in the pouring rain, and later died in that pitch-black alley. In this life, although she inadvertently hid in my home, but that demon hidden in the shadows, who originally intended to kill her, could he have been following her all along? Could he have tailed Bai Wei all the way? And that night, even followed her to my building? If that's the case, then Uncle Dao, lurking in the shadows to protect me, his eyes, tempered by countless life and death experiences, would definitely have noticed this tail that had been following Bai Wei. Without any hesitation, I quickly found that string of numbers with no contact name and pressed the dial button. The phone had barely rung half a ring when it was instantly picked up on the other end. Uncle Dao, it's me, young master. Is your body feeling better? What do you need? Uncle Dao, last Friday night, the rainstorm, around 9:30. A completely soaked girl came to knock on my door. You should have been on guard around my apartment at that time, right? Yes, I was on the roof of the building across the street, checking for blind spots. That girl came to knock on the door. I saw it. Then at that time, did you notice if there was any suspicious person following her? Or rather, was there anyone who followed her all the way to near my home, or even watched her from the shadows? After asking this question, I felt the air around me solidify. From the earpiece came a brief silence, only the faint sound of static stimulating my eardrums. The static on the other end lasted only 2 seconds, before Uncle Dao's deep voice came through. Young master, there was indeed a person. My heart felt like it was struck by a heavy hammer. Blood throughout my body instantly boiled. That night the rain was too heavy. That person was wearing a long black raincoat, wearing a mask, keeping a distance of about 50 meters, following that girl neither too close nor too far, until he saw the girl enter your apartment building. That person stood under a street light across the street for about 2 or 3 minutes, then turned and left. After that, that person never appeared again. In the past life, Bai Wei didn't enter my home. So, this demon found the opportunity to strike in the alley. But in this life, because Bai Wei hid in my home, she completely escaped the killer's hunting range. So, he could only watch helplessly as his prey escaped in the rain, forced to give up. Uncle Dao, did you see his face clearly? Can you find out who this person is? The rain was too heavy, and the streetlights were dim. That person was completely covered up. Indeed, I couldn't see his face. However, although I didn't follow him then, I clearly remember which alley he turned into when he left. Young master, as long as he walked, there would always be traces left behind. Uncle Dao, I want to find out who he is. He hung up the phone. I took a deep breath, suppressing the surge of malice in my eyes. Just then, the door gently pushed open. Nancheng, the kanji is ready. It's just the right temperature. Seeing her gentle, quiet look in her apron, the agitation in my chest, stirred by the truth closing in, was instantly soothed. The doctor said your stomach will be weak after the fever. Have something light first to settle your stomach. Have you been watching over me this whole time? Have you eaten yourself? I had a small bowl in the kitchen. Eat up, don't talk. The patient doesn't have the strength to lift his hands. So I'll have to trouble the nanny to feed me bite by bite. Bai Wei shot me a reproachful glare. In this bedroom, bathed in warm light, the schemes and deadly threats outside the window seemed completely blocked out. The next morning, I watched Bai Wei leave for school, and had Uncle Dao escort her covertly. When the security door clicked shut, and I was sure Bai Wei was far away, the warmth in my eyes vanished instantly. I quickly changed into a black outfit, put on a cap, and pushed open the door. When I was a kid, I met Uncle Dao in the back alley of an internet cafe near the crime scene. We rendezvoused there. Young master, this is all the private surveillance footage from that Friday night. In that area, I copied it all overnight. Thanks for your hard work, Uncle Dao. Uncle Dao and I stared at the footage on the screen, though the rainstorm made it blurry. The moment that person passed under a streetlight, his silhouette was still visible, judging by the approximate height on the screen. And his gait, I quickly ran through my memory. I'd seen him before soon. A name leapt out from my memories. Lin Yuanhai. No mistake. That height and build are definitely him. Lin Yuanhai. Lin Xia's younger brother, Bai Wei's stepmother. In the evening, the sound of a key turning in the lock came from the door. Bai Wei walked in with her backpack. She saw me sitting on the sofa and immediately hurried over. Nancheng, are you feeling any better? Is your head still dizzy? It's been fine for a while. The fever's completely gone. Don't worry. Good. I was worried about you all day at school. Afraid you'd be home alone with no one to take care of you. We cuddled on the sofa for a while, enjoying the quiet. Then I dropped my smile, looked into her eyes. Bai Wei, I have something to take care of outside. It'll probably take about 2 days. 2 days? Your body just recovered. It's a personal matter. I have to handle it. I'll be back soon. These 2 days, stay home and wait for me. Don't go anywhere. Okay, I'll wait for you at home. Be careful out there. Saturday, 9 a.m. Dark clouds crowded the sky outside the window. Soon, a torrential rain poured down fiercely. Bai Wei is afraid of thunderstorms. Right now she was curled up on the sofa, wrapping herself tightly in a blanket. And I was in an abandoned construction site somewhere in Jiangxing. I wore a mask and a voice changer, standing in front of a young man whose eyes were covered and hands bound behind his back. His name is Lin Yuanhai, the target of my secret investigation these past few days. He has a habit of jogging every morning. I took the chance to abduct him here. In my past life, as a criminal investigator, I had to follow rules and regulations. But now, to quickly extract the truth of that night, I had to use some special methods. What are you doing? We don't have money. Let me go. I swear I won't call the police. If I were after money, what use would kidnapping you be? Now I ask, you answer. I could easily grab you, which means I know everything about you. Don't try any tricks. I pressed a cold glass bottle gently against his neck. In the darkness, trembling with fear, he shook like a leaf instantly. Ask me anything. I'll tell you everything I know. Think carefully. About that Friday night half a month ago, during the storm. What did you do? Not giving a specific time was to increase his psychological pressure. Sure enough, he recalled in a panic, stammering, that he had invited a female classmate, Xiao Yu, over to do homework. Until evening. If a few drops of something drip on this face of yours, I imagine it would look quite different. No. I'll talk. I did invite a female classmate that afternoon, but I went out that evening. What did you go out to do? To follow a girl. You dished your classmate, ventured out in a storm just to tail a girl. Give me a reason to believe you. It's true. My sister asked me to do it. Lin Yuanhai's sister was Lin Xia, Bai Chengfeng's current wife. I immediately used his fingerprint to unlock his phone and searched through the chat records from that day. Sure enough, the messages clearly showed Lin Xia telling Lin Yuanhai to leave the female classmate at home and immediately go downstairs to wait, to follow Bai Wei when she left their house. I had been puzzled before why Lin Yuanhai would invite a girl over and then go out in the rain to tail someone. Such a contradictory act. Now everything made sense. In the chat records, Lin Yuanhai had followed Bai Wei all the way to the downstairs of my apartment. After learning that Bai Wei had entered a guy's home, Lin Xia told him to wait a few minutes. When Bai Wei didn't come out, she told him to go back. In other words, on that stormy night in my past life, Lin Yuanhai's tailing had completely ended the moment Bai Wei knocked on my door. But if Lin Yuanhai was only responsible for following her and had no murderous intent, then how did Bai Wei die in that past life? Combining that with the autopsy report from my past life, Bai Wei's clothes were disheveled, but there were no obvious struggle marks, ligature marks, or compression marks on her body. This suggested she hadn't been violently attacked during a rape. The murder weapon was a fruit knife Bai Wei had brought out herself. The only possibility was that Lin Xia later found Bai Wei, and the two argued. Given Lin Xia's strong, controlling personality and her hostility toward her husband's daughter from a previous marriage, their conversation likely broke down, ultimately triggering a crime of passion. Having deduced this far, though I still lacked decisive direct evidence, the outline of the truth was almost clear. At least the trail with Lin Yuanhai had reached a dead end. Get out of here. Don't look back. Otherwise you know the consequences. Lin Yuanhai, as if pardoned, scrambled out of the abandoned building. I walked alone to the rooftop of the abandoned structure, letting the freezing rain pour down on me. Cold water clears my mind quickly. My purpose in coming back to this life was first, to find the real murderer. Second, to protect Bai Wei from harm. Now Bai Wei was safe at my home. As long as I kept her from meeting Lin Xia, the potential danger would disappear. As for the real killer, the target was already locked on Lin Xia, but I lacked direct evidence. Looking at the results, I had already successfully changed Bai Wei's fate. But what if the killer was someone else? Just at that moment, a thunderclap split the sky. Lightning lit up the entire city of Nancheng in an instant. The next moment, everything went black before my eyes. Then came a grotesque, twisted play of light and shadow. When I came to, I found Bai Wei standing beside me, though I didn't know when she had arrived. No, she wasn't standing. Lightning instantly illuminated the entire Jiangxing. The next moment, everything went dark before my eyes. Then came a surreal, twisted shift of light and shadow. When I snapped back to reality, I found Bai Wei standing beside me, though I didn't know when she'd appeared. No, not standing, but floating, dreaming again. I stared at this scene in astonishment. Bai Wei at this moment, and the one from my past life as a detective, I saw in my dream were no different. She always wore a faint, elusive smile, yet her face showed an expression of concern for me, just silently watching me like that, without a word. Seeing the familiar Bai Wei appear before me, I almost thought I had traveled back again. I immediately looked around and realized I hadn't returned to the rooftop of the police station, but was outside my home. Just as I was filled with shock and uncertainty, the next moment, a girl soaked through was slowly walking this way. Water droplets fell from her hair tips into her collar. She hugged her arms and walked slowly all the way to my front door. At this moment, I stood nearby and was surprised to find that this newly appeared Bai Wei from the past seemed completely unable to see me. I turned my head in confusion and glanced at the ghost Bai Wei floating beside me. She still looked at me with a blank expression, then immediately shifted her gaze back to her past self. Seeing this, I turned again to look at the Bai Wei before me, drenched by rain. She stood at the door, but didn't immediately ring the doorbell. She hesitated, seeming to wrestle with something. After a long while, she slowly extended her hand, but stopped just before touching the doorbell. After hesitating once more and taking a deep breath, she finally mustered the courage to press the doorbell. As the ding-dong sound rang, her body gave a violent tremble, and she quickly withdrew her hand, hugging herself again, looking shy and awkward. Soon the door was opened, and the one who opened it was me from the past. This was the first time I saw myself from a third-person perspective. What my past self looked like. Right now I didn't know if it was a dream or what. Anyway, I just stood nearby. Neither my present self nor Bai Wei could see me. I didn't think too much, just quietly watched everything. Just as in my memory, Bai Wei brought up the idea of staying over. But that version of me was too young and afraid of my parents finding out and scolding, so I didn't dare to easily take in a girl whose upper body was almost completely see-through. I thought she was in trouble and had no money to get home, so I offered to escort her home and turned to get a raincoat and umbrella. But just as I turned around, Bai Wei's expression twisted with hesitation. Then she turned and left, dejected. Seeing this, I didn't care about the version of me still looking for the umbrella. I immediately chased after her, because I knew very well what I was doing at that time. But I had no idea what Bai Wei went through that entire night after being turned away at the door. Even if it was just a dream, I wanted to see how the dream would reconstruct what she suffered that night. I caught up to Bai Wei and saw a face full of confusion. A girl who didn't know where to go. She didn't want me to know the shame of her family, so she didn't dare let me see her off. But after refusing my kindness, where could she go? The world is vast, yet there was no place for her. Mother, father, the three places she considered home, none of them seemed to have room for her. She stumbled dazedly to the entrance of a convenience store. Her stomach suddenly growled. Remembering she hadn't eaten since noon, she pulled out the last money she had, bought a bread roll and a carton of milk for dinner. The convenience store clerk saw how drenched she was and immediately brought a towel for her to dry off. And as she was about to leave, he kindly handed her an umbrella. Just return it next time you come by. The rain is so heavy. A girl shouldn't get too soaked. It's bad for your health. Bai Wei couldn't refuse the clerk's kindness, so she could only thank him. She took the umbrella, opened it, and was about to leave, when she unexpectedly saw a familiar figure. She looked over there and saw Yi Ci surrounded by 3 thugs, being beaten in a corner. After a moment of internal struggle, she still mustered her courage and walked over. Stop it right now. If you keep bullying him, I'll call the police. She fumbled for her phone, only to suddenly remember that her phone had been smashed by her mother before she left. Seeing her empty-handed expression. Looks like you forgot your phone when you left. Pretty lady, we'll stop if you stay with us. So how about you stay? Just as the three closed in on Bai Wei, Yi Zi, who had been taking the beating silently without fighting back, suddenly struggled to stand up and firmly blocked Bai Wei. She has nothing to do with this. You go quickly. Too late to leave now. Stop her. Seeing the two about to grab Bai Wei, the previously meek and submissive Yi Zi suddenly went berserk. When usually loud people lose their temper, it's not frightening. But when a quiet, honest person is pushed to the edge, the way they lose control is terrifying. Yi Zi charged at the three like a mad dog, welcoming their punches and kicks. Yet he used every part of his body that could attack to fight back. One thug's arm was viciously bitten by Yi Zi, causing him to grimace in pain. The next moment, Yi Zi aimed at the guy next to him and clamped down with his teeth. No matter how they hit him, he wouldn't let go. He nearly tore a piece of flesh off that guy's arm until the guy knelt in pain and begged for mercy. Only then did Yi Zi release his bite. Seeing his two buddies bitten so badly, the blonde also chickened out. The fierce fear the reckless fear. The ones who don't value life. This guy was clearly a madman. The three could only leave a harsh threat and flee in panic. I knew the three were carrying knives, but they only had them to boost their courage. They didn't have the guts to actually stab anyone. Yi Zi's ferocity thoroughly scared them out of their wits. Only then did I suddenly understand. The injuries I saw on Yi Zi at school in my past life were indeed from protecting Bai Wei. Seeing the three fleeing, the exhausted Yi Zi, ignoring the pouring rain, plopped down into the muddy water. Are you okay? I'm fine. Thank you. We're all classmates. No need to thank me. You just protected me too. We're even now. Bai Wei forced a gentle smile and reached out to help him up. Yi Zi looked at her outstretched hand, mindful of his muddy hands. Didn't take it. Instead, pushed himself up from the ground. He walked to a trash can and retrieved his knocked-down backpack. Unzipped a compartment to confirm the clean handkerchief inside was still there. Only then did he feel at ease. Your umbrella is broken. Take mine. But this umbrella is from that convenience store. Remember to return it when you're done. If I take this umbrella, then what about you? I'm fine. I want to get rained on, so I don't need an umbrella. The thoughtful and sensitive Yi Zi sharply noticed her unusual state. Did something happen? Nothing. It's family matters. Seeing it was a family issue, Yi Zi didn't feel comfortable asking further. But how could she take the girl's umbrella and let her get wet? Just as she hesitated, Bai Wei shoved the umbrella into her hand, then plunged headfirst into the dense, black curtain of rain. Soon her direction was lost from sight. With no other choice, Yi Zi had to head home, umbrella in hand. Only then did I realize. No wonder the crime scene didn't have. That convenience store umbrella was originally given to Yi Zi. In the curtain of rain, besides Bai Wei walking blindly ahead, I also saw another figure, Lin Ranhai. He was trying hard to avoid the surrounding surveillance cameras, weaving through the rain, closely following Bai Wei. Since I had already interrogated Lin Ranhai, knowing he was tailing me, I naturally wasn't surprised. Right now, what I'm most curious about is still the crime scene. What exactly happened? I turned my head and glanced at the silent ghost Bai Wei beside me. Together with her, I closely followed ahead, the one moving like a walking corpse, behind the Bai Wei of the past. The icy rain soaked through her body, but she seemed to have lost all sensation. Without purpose, not knowing where to go, unknowingly, she had already walked to the old district where no effective surveillance cameras covered. Finally, she walked numbly under an abandoned awning, staring at the pouring rain before her. She stood there blankly, lost in thought. At this moment, I stood beside the floating ghost Bai Wei, watching everything unfold from a god's eye view. I saw Lin Ranhai hiding in the shadows, typing rapidly on his phone. I didn't need to see to know. He was definitely reporting Bai Wei's whereabouts to Lin Xia. It seems Lin Xia would show up soon. In my mind, I had already begun to anticipate the impending conflict. Next, various people who had left their mark on this rainy night appeared one after another. I saw Jiang Yan peeling an apple in the nearby parking shelter. He took a call and then left in a hurry. He casually put the knife into his pocket. Indeed, no second knife was left at the scene. A homeless deliver man rushed by. That perverted, creepy male neighbor, wearing a raincoat, sneaked into an adult toy store. After buying some trinkets, he quickly left. People came and went around, but Bai Wei under the awning just stood there numbly, like a statue that had lost its soul. The sky is vast, the earth is wide, but she no longer knew where to go. Since she didn't know where to go, naturally, her feet couldn't take a step. After who knows how long, a figure in a raincoat appeared nearby. This figure wasn't tall. In fact, rather petite. Just as Bai Wei was lost in thought, this figure slowly walked up to her. The faint light was suddenly blocked, and Bai Wei immediately looked up. Yashi? I was completely stunned. I originally thought Lin Ranhai had contacted Lin Xia, but I never expected. The one who appeared here was actually Bai Wei's half-sister, Bai Yashi, the daughter of Bai Chengfeng and Lin Xia. How could it be her? My mind was full of question marks. I had never considered the possibility of this little girl appearing at the crime scene. But soon, fragments of information about her flashed through my mind. Bai Yashi was gifted, skipped grades, had outstanding academic performance. That is to say, she had a very smart and precocious mind. I had completely overlooked her because of her age. Now it seems, it's highly possible that she used her mother's identity to simply have Lin Ranhai run errands. But could a little girl like her have a conflict with Bai Wei, to the point of a life being lost? I knew it. Given your state today, you're destined to be homeless. Bai Wei had never held any malice toward this sister. but she knew very well that her sister had never liked her since childhood. But no matter how much she disliked her, surely she wouldn't chase after her in the rain in the middle of the night and hit her? You came here in the middle of the night. Just to say that? Of course not. I came here just to make some things clear to you. Don't come to my house anymore from now on. Neither my mom nor I like you. You have your own mother over there. Why do you still come and try to take my dad away? In Bayashi's eyes, there was a venom that went beyond her age. Just to say this. You had to come out in the middle of the night? Some things have to be said face to face. And some tangible evidence has to be left. To keep you from going back on your word later, Bayashi pulled a waterproof bag from her raincoat pocket. I know you're homeless now. Here's 1,000 yuan. Take it. Then sign this agreement to sever the father-daughter relationship. From now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. I finally understood. After learning of Bai Wei's desperate situation, Bayashi wanted to take advantage of the crisis, using a sum of money to force Bai Wei to sign this absurd agreement, buying herself peace and quiet from then on. The reason she had Lin Ran hightail her all the way was to confirm that Bai Wei truly had no way out. Looking at the agreement Bayashi handed over, a bitter, tragic smile appeared on Bai Wei's face. She hadn't expected that when she had already fallen to such a state, her own sister would still kick her when she was down. There is no greater sadness than a dead heart. At this moment, how could she care about 1,000 yuan? All she cared about was the last shred of her pitiful dignity. I will not sign. Bai Wei. Stop dreaming. Haven't you realized it yet? Realized what? Realized that Dad doesn't care about you at all. He doesn't love you at all. Look at what the weather is like today. Such a heavy downpour. When you left our house, he didn't even say a single word to keep you. Do you know what that means? It means you don't exist as his daughter in his heart. Bayashi's cold words were like poisoned ice picks, stabbing deeply into Bai Wei's already scarred heart. That phrase, he doesn't have you in his heart, during the days when her mother fell ill, had gnawed at her heart like a poisonous snake countless times. But now, in this deep night of howling wind and pelting rain, on this street where the whole world had abandoned her, her own flesh and blood sister, announcing it with the cruel posture of a victor, Bai Wei felt that deep in her mind, a thread that had been barely holding on, snapped with a crisp sound. All the despair from before, like thick smog, instantly enveloped her. The cold of being shut out by her mother, the numbness of having nowhere to go, the dull pain of her father's cold indifference. That was the sound of a heart shattering. In truth, Bai Wei understood all these truths, but toward this fragmented family, she had always carried a reluctant hope. It was what drove her to keep going to see her father, deep in her soul, the last faint glow that refused to be extinguished. But Bayashi's words, and that glaring agreement of severance, like a pair of cold hands, brutally pressed that last flicker of light firmly into the cold, muddy reality. Bai Wei's face froze, the bitter smile congealing. She didn't argue anymore. She didn't defend herself. Any words at this moment seemed pale and ridiculous. She felt that inside her body, something was rapidly cooling. She found her heart being clenched tightly by an invisible hand. A suffocating numbness and cold spread through her limbs and bones. The strength that kept her standing seemed to be drained in an instant. She looked up at Bayashi's face, full of calculation. A face that bore some resemblance to their father. Her eyes were terrifyingly hollow. Take the money. I won't sign the agreement. There was no defiance in her tone. Only a bone-deep exhaustion and calm remained. Sign or not sign. Is there any difference? The corner in her heart, called father, had already, like this icy rain, lost its last warmth. Her heart had fallen into complete silence. Bai Wei had some shame. Seeing Bai Wei still refuse to give in, Bayashi was furious. In that instant, a flash of cold light swept by, and Bai Wei actually pulled an ice-cold fruit knife from her pocket, the self-defense weapon she'd brought from her mother's house. In that moment, not only was Bayashi stunned, but Lin ran high, hiding in the shadows nearby, sucked in a sharp breath in fright. Bai Wei, what are you doing? Don't be scared. I'm not signing the agreement. If you want to sever ties, you might as well kill me. Looking at the knife in Bai Wei's hand and hearing her resolute words, Bayashi froze. But to be safe, she quickly snatched the knife from Bai Wei's hand. At least this way, she held the advantage. Seeing her younger sister take the knife, Bai Wei simply closed her eyes, spread her arms, like a lamb to the slaughter. But Bayashi was, after all, a young girl. How could she actually kill someone? After a few seconds of waiting, seeing Bayashi do nothing, Bai Wei suddenly gave a cold smile. Since you won't do it, then this relationship will never be severed. Do as you please. With that, Bai Wei turned and left. Every extra second with her sister reminded her of her father's ruthlessness. Right now, she was just using the most powerless method to spite her domineering sister. Bayashi gripped the knife tightly, staring at Bai Wei's retreating back, the cold smile from just before, replaying in her mind. She was nothing but a homeless loser. What right did she have to smile at her like that? Rage flared in Bayashi's chest. Knife in hand, she hurried after Bai Wei. Soon, the two entered a dark corner, where even the streetlight couldn't reach. Bai Wei, stop right there. Bai Wei completely ignored her. That only made Bayashi angrier. She rushed forward, grabbed Bai Wei's clothes, and forced her to turn around. The violent yank tangled Bai Wei's soaked shirt. Bayashi was livid. In the black curtain of rain, Bai Wei stared expressionlessly at her furious younger sister. She suddenly reached out, grabbed Bayashi's wrist that held the knife, and brutally pressed the sharp blade against her own neck. Changed your mind? If you have, then go ahead. Freezing rain pounded Bayashi's hand, sliding down the blade. Bai Wei's cold fingers forced themselves over Bayashi's, pressing the knife hard against her own vulnerable carotid. Those eyes that once held 1,000 emotions were now only dead stillness. Hollow, they pierced the rain, gazing into nothingness, as if waiting for the final verdict. Don't push me. I'm just giving you a choice. If you won't choose, then go home. The rain is so heavy. Bai Wei's almost considerate words sounded like the ultimate mockery to Bayashi. What she wanted to see was Bai Wei's panic and submission, not this detached calm that looked down on her. Just as Bayashi, crushed under this immense psychological pressure, was on the verge of breaking down, and the knife in her hand was about to slip, a dark figure suddenly charged out from the shadow of an awning. It was Lin Ranhai. He'd been hiding in the dark all along. Because of the poor light, he could only vaguely make out a cold blade pressed against a throat. In terror, he concluded that Bai Wei, that dangerous person, was taking his precious niece Bayashi hostage. Without a second thought, Lin Ranhai lunged forward like a frightened wild dog. His goal was clear: snatch the knife, pull Bayashi away. But he never imagined that his sudden collision would be the last straw. Bayashi, already on the edge of breakdown, screamed at the sudden dark shape and instinctively used all her strength to break free from Bai Wei's grip. And Bai Wei, at the moment the shadow lunged, her body instinctively made a defensive reaction. In the instant Bayashi violently pulled her hand away, the ground was slippery. To steady herself, Bai Wei almost instinctively stumbled forward toward Bayashi. A fatal chain reaction occurred. Bayashi, in extreme terror, yanked herself free, lost her balance, and instinctively pulled both arms inward, trying to grab something. But one of her hands still held the knife. Bai Wei stumbled forward from the slip, and Lin Ranhai lunged, grabbing with all his force at the hand that held the blade. The three forces combined in an instant. That sharp fruit knife traced a very brief arc in the dim light. A soft thud, the faint sound of tearing, drowned by the rain. Time seemed to freeze. Lin Ranhai's hand finally grabbed tight around Bayashi's knife-wielding wrist. He breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he'd succeeded. Bayashi's eyes went wide, her body rigid, and Bai Wei, caught between the two, gave a slight shudder. She felt a brief, freezing, sharp pain. She looked down, a bit confused, but then that icy sensation was instantly replaced by a surging heat that spread wildly down her neck. Warm liquid quickly soaked her cold, wet clothes. The bewilderment in her eyes hadn't faded, but mixed with it was a deeper, more complete relief. She made no sound of pain. Her strength drained away like the tide, and she collapsed backward, limp, landing hard on the cold, flooded ground. Splashes of water mingled with the quickly spreading dark red liquid. Her eyes, staring into the endless dark, passed over Lin Ranhai's shocked, twisted face, glanced at Bayashi's bloodless, terrified expression, and then completely lost all light. Lin Ranhai looked down in a daze at the knife he'd just successfully snatched. Bright red blood was dripping from the blade. He whipped his head toward Bai Wei, lying in a pool of blood. His mind went completely blank. He didn't even know whether it was his own charge that had driven Bayashi's hand, cutting Bai Wei's throat, or if Bai Wei had already been slashed before he rushed over. Horror engulfed Lin Ranhai. Bayashi was thinking the same thing. She didn't know who to blame for this knife wound. This was a murder charge. She yanked her hand back. The bloodstained fruit knife fell into the puddle. She stumbled backward, her face covered in tears and rain. No trace of arrogance remained. Only pure, primal fear. Lin Ranhai was frozen in place, like a statue washed by the rain. This wasn't what he meant to do. He'd only wanted to pull Yashi away. He'd killed someone. While the two were locked in shock, they suddenly heard footsteps of a passerby. Bayashi, who had been terrified just a moment ago, suddenly steeled herself. She picked up the murder weapon, grabbed Lin Ranhai, and fled without looking back. I hesitated there for a moment, looking at Bai Wei lying lifeless in the cold rain. My heart ached so much I couldn't breathe. I wanted to go help her up, but the ghostly Bai Wei floating beside me held me back. Following her gaze toward the direction the two had fled, I understood what she meant. I was just a bystander now. Following her gaze toward the direction the two had fled, I understood what she meant. I was just a bystander now. I had to see more of the truth. How did these two manage to evade the police investigation? Fighting back the pain, I caught up with Bayashi and the other guy. They ran all the way to an even more secluded corner. Only then did they stop. What do we do now? We're screwed. This is a disaster. If the police question us, what do we say? Don't panic. The rain is heavy. There's no surveillance here. We'll be fine. Uncle, that girl you had a date with today, is she home? She is, but I'm not actually dating her. Then it's simple. Just agree to date her. Have her give you an alibi. Even the police won't believe that you had a date with your girlfriend at home, but left her alone, went out in the rain to kill a girl you had nothing to do with. From behavioral logic to motive to opportunity, you don't satisfy a single condition. But what if the police decide to do a full investigation on me? I'll slip up somewhere along the way, won't I? Uncle, how do you know even less than I do? When the police investigate a suspect, they won't pick someone with such a low probability, even if the police find evidence that you went out. What about the murder weapon? That knife was brought by Bai Wei herself. Who knew she would carry a knife when she went out? If you just insist on that one unexplainable point about the weapon, the police can't do a thing to you. Listening to Bayashi's words, I felt a chill run down my spine. This high school girl had a knowledge base far beyond her age, and a terrifying calmness. His words quickly calmed the panicked Lin Ranhai. But what about you? There's a surveillance camera in your building's elevator. If it catches you leaving, how do you explain that? I didn't take the elevator when I came down earlier. I sneaked out without my parents knowing, so I took the stairs to avoid the cameras. When I go back, I'll just take the stairs again. So the elevator only shows me coming home in the afternoon. It suddenly dawned on me. No wonder during the investigation in the past life, there was no record of anyone from Bai's family leaving the house. Bayashi, in order to hide it from his parents, deliberately avoided the cameras. And that very action became the key to evading the police. If he hadn't premeditated the murder, why would he avoid surveillance? If he did premeditate the murder, then why was the weapon brought by the victim herself? These two contradictory loops of logic, plus the witness who fled after a failed rape attempt in Lake Prefecture, and the rainstorm's destruction of the scene, completely threw off the police's investigation. This was the whole truth behind that unsolved mystery from the past life. Two negligent killers. Both had alibis. Neither had a plan for premeditated murder. Neither had prepared a weapon. Under the cover of God's rainstorm, this case, full of coincidences, became a near unsolvable perfect crime. Watching the two figures walk away, I felt nothing but sorrow in my heart. Who was the real killer? Lin Ranhai or Bayashi? There was no conclusion. But before they even made their move, Bai Wei had already been killed. What really killed him was his broken family of origin. The father who ignored him. The mother who was driven mad. Just as I was torturing myself with guilt, suddenly, a small, cold hand gently touched my cheek. Feeling that cold touch on my face, I turned my head in a daze. There, floating in midair, was the ghost of Bai Wei, looking at me with a gaze that was infinitely tender and full of pity. "Stop here," he finally spoke. That familiar voice that tugged at my heart, after 10 years, once again reached my ears clearly. But the voice carried a heartbreaking desolation. Am I dreaming right now? Or is this real? I still have questions. He reached out a slender, pale finger and gently pressed it to my lips. It doesn't matter. It's all in the past now. Is it really over? You've taken on responsibilities you shouldn't have. Carried sins you shouldn't have borne. I've watched you every day. Watched you torment yourself with obsession for 10 years. It's time to let it end. You've already investigated everything you needed to. The truth no longer matters. Because before that knife fell, my heart was already dead. My heart jolted. I finally understood his state of mind back then. There is no greater sorrow than a dead heart. When the whole world had abandoned him, whether his body still lived, no longer mattered to him. That knife, to him at that moment, was even a kind of release. He just never expected that because I failed to make him stay, I would turn this tragedy into a 10-year prison, trapping myself in sin and regret. Let go. Then I can leave in peace. This sin shouldn't fall on you. And you shouldn't carry it. Treasure the present. He's still waiting for you to come home. Don't chase after past obsessions, and overlook the people who need you most right now. Hearing those words, I trembled all over. Yes, I had been living in the obsession of the past, investigating the truth, even willing to walk the edge of the law. If I kept going, I would really be doomed forever. I looked at him, dreamlike and unreal, unable to tell if this was a real meeting of souls, or an illusion my subconscious created to save itself. But whether it was real or not, I had to give him a promise, so he could leave in peace. I figured it out. This matter has been settled. Don't worry, I won't live in the past anymore. Hearing my promise, Bai Wei finally showed a joyful, relieved smile. The next moment, the cold, rainy night around me began to twist and fade away. When I woke with a start, it was already the next morning. The rainstorm had long stopped. A brilliant sun hung high in the washed clean sky. Having slept through the night, at the moment of waking, I felt the haze in my heart completely swept away. The rain had passed, the sky had cleared. Everything around looked exceptionally vivid. I looked around and found I was still lying on the roof of that unfinished building from last night. Puddles of water lay all around, but my clothes were surprisingly dry. I don't know if it was the wind on the roof drying them, or some kind of inexplicable miracle. I stood up and gazed into the distance at Nancheng bathed in sunlight. Whether it was a dream or real, let it be. From that surreal, grotesque dream last night, I had completely sorted out everything from the past life. Bai Wei's death was by no means a simple accident, nor was it inevitable. It was the destruction of a family of origin, countless moments of mishap, and ultimate despair piled together, that evolved into this tragedy. As long as I'm here, I will never let this outcome repeat. When I got home, the house was eerily quiet. I tiptoed to the living room and saw at a glance. Bai Wei was wrapped in that thin blanket, curled up on the sofa, fast asleep. Last night, with thunder and lightning, she, afraid of thunder, hadn't gone back to the comfortable guest room, but had curled up on the living room sofa. I think she must have been waiting for me to come home. Watching her peaceful sleeping face, feeling the weight of her dependence, I couldn't help but reveal a gentle smile. I walked over and pulled the slip blanket back up for her. Only then did I turn and go back to my own room. Having been out in the rain all night, I quickly rinsed off, soaked in a hot bath, dispelling the chill from my body. By the time I was fully dressed and came back to the living room, Bai Wei was still fast asleep. She must have stayed up late worrying about me last night. Seeing her sleep so soundly, I couldn't bear to wake her. What's past is past. From today onward, I live only for this vibrant girl in front of me.